All right. I'm going to call to order today's budget hearings um, for this Thursday, August 15th. Today we have before us Parks and Recreation, then we have Planning and Development, Human Resources, and IT is today or next week? They are today? Okay, and IT. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Let the record reflect that this is a committee of 5 members, and we do have a quorum of 3. Vice President Griselle is joining us virtually. And then, of course, we have Councilman Hartley from Ward 5 on the dais with myself from Ward 6. At this time, I will hand it over to the Director of Parks and Recreation, uh, Dr. Muhammad.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Uh, to the council, to the committee, the administration, all that are present, good morning. Thank you for having us here um, for our budget hearing coming from Parks and Best. All right. So, I'm sorry, Parks and Recreation. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
But I first want to thank the administration and the council for your vote of confidence in myself and for the staff and what we are attempting to do. Of course, I want to thank our partners and the citizens for their support, well wishes, and efforts that they've given, and without a question, the hardworking men and women of Parks and Recreation for their tireless efforts of what we attempt to do day in and day out. Of course, you already everybody's aware of what we do at Parks and Recreation, so I won't belabor the time when it goes to dealing with the mission statement, and we'll just dive right in. I first like to draw attention to our bonds and grants and to show some of the things that we have done with the bonds and grants procurement that we have been able to obtain. And of course, starting with Livingston Park, which is something I know is near and dear to your heart, Councilman Hartley. We've been doing a lot of debris removal. As you can see, the park over there looks completely different now that we've cleared it out. We're doing some fence repairs, finishing up the fence repairs with those concerned, and the underbrush. And of course, we're tentatively looking at opening the city's first ever competitional disc golf course that will be taking place there. We already broke ground and everything where that is concerned, and we'll speak a little more about that very briefly as we move on. What we've done at Pete Brown is, of course, tree removal is there as well. 55 new golf carts that we have, the purchase of a green mower, sand barrier that we have in place. We're very proud about that because, believe it or not, you wouldn't realize how much sand is actually needed to keep the golf course looking good. But more importantly, a new irrigation system that we've used the bonds and grants money to be able to place into Pete Brown. Um, Manager Steve Hutton, Mr. Hutton out there, has been doing a great job with that, and we've been getting more people interested in having their tournaments there. And we're looking also to remodel the clubhouse and the pro shop with those bonds and grants. Lake Hyco installed a completely new wooden fence all the way around. The sprinkle pad we got up together, restoration to the restrooms, and a major water infrastructure we've done. And of course, something that will be near to Councilman Griselle, Mr. Vice President, the grants in which we have started the operation on out at Buddy Butts for the go-kart track out there. Our athletic programs, we're pleased to announce that we had a total of 18 teams with a total participant of 228. Both of those numbers are up from what they have been in the past 3 previous years. In fact, each year has been continuing to grow. So we want to thank our working manager there, Mr. Charles Melvin, and his hardworking team and the athletic staff for what we're doing. 30 youth teams, Councilman Bank, which is, I know is near and dear to you where youth sports are concerned. We had 323 participants. So I want to thank Ms. Nakira Willis for her hard work and effort with that, along with Ms. Keisha Milton, and for adult softball, which is headed up all the adult activity with Mr. Dwayne Robinson. We had a total of 5 adult teams with 115 participants. And so we're very pleased about that, as well as just announcing this past weekend, we just hosted Black World Softball Tournament. that took place here in the city of Jackson, where over 50 teams traveled from across the country to come to participate and compete in Black World Softball Tournament here. We keep on moving when we go to aquatics. You will see for that this year we had 4 swimming pools open, 2 splash pad, and 1 sprinkle pad. Uh, that is up 4 additional water features than what we had in the past previous years, and we are extremely proud about that because, as you know, we really been taking it on the chin for our aquatics with those concerns, and really with the lack of success for lifeguards and pool managers, thanks to the efforts of the administration as well as our partners who's been helping us in the media realm get the word out. We actually, Mr. Chair, had an influx of lifeguards and pool managers, so much to the degree that we couldn't even hire them all, and that was the first time in, I can think, forever that we've ever been in that situation to where we have not able to take on everybody at that time. Of course, with that, we want to continue to seek assistance financially for that. As you know, we got age pools, and that's nothing new. You know what we're going to have to do with that is concerned. But we're going to continue to partner with our local partners. We had 2 church organizations that we were blessed to come on this year to help us in this effort in adopting the pools and being able to open them. When we say adopting, we're talking about buying the chemicals, maintaining some of the maintenance of it, providing people to be there to take the monies up, even lifeguards for those particular locations. So we are very, very thankful.
What are the name of the churches?
We had First Baptist that came
Okay.
came aboard that helped, as well as Cade Chapel.
Cade Chapel?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Just want to make sure we get them a resolution or something.
Right, and Soul City for Mill Street.
Say it again?
Soul City that
Okay,
had Mill
right
Street.
here. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So, and who? Out in Midtown. Right, correct. So we're going to continue to reach out to those partners to have a buy-in with that, because as we see, it not only does it help financially, but it ties in the community that helps everybody to take a stake in it. And we're pleased to say that vandalism for those pools that we had open were extremely decreased in what we had in the years, as opposed to what we experienced at Terry Road. Unfortunately, we wanted to have it open, but the week before opening, it was vandalized so bad it was just south of $10,000 of what it would have cost for us to have that up and going. And keeping it moving, our programming division, we want to thank our manager, Ms. Lisa Wilson, and her hardworking staff there on the programming. We had our girls and boys basketball camp, 2 separate camps that took place. The praise dance explosion, the dance of the princess and the frog, the flipping out tournament, of course, our citywide Easter egg hunt that we host every year, our summer program, which we was able to max it out with our children. I got quite a little jealous about that, Councilman Harlan, to be honest with you, because the field trips they took this year, they didn't count children at heart. It had to be at age, so I wasn't able to go and participate with those, but they had some really good trips that they went on, and as well as our Juneteenth festival. We're very pleased and proud about that. It continues to grow every year. Our Fit Lot program, which is located at Palm Bridges, we're thankful to offer that to the community, as well as health and fitness in our firework extravaganza, which was the 3rd largest firework extravaganza we had since we've been doing it. And you may say, well, why you want to mention the 3rd? Well, the largest was when we were in COVID, and we had a lot of people that were out in their vehicles that was parked all the way up to the Children's Museum. Same thing happened this year, but the reason why I wanted to bring this out is that we had a major rainstorm that came in an hour before. I mean, Mr. Chair, you were there, an hour before the fireworks, but everybody didn't leave. They went to the car, some left, but they went to the car and actually waited it out and came back, and it was the best show in terms of the features of the fireworks that we experienced. And I think you and your family even said they had a wonderful time there, sir.
Let me just say this. usually my family goes to Nashville for the 4th of July, and you know they have one of the largest in the world.
Yes, sir.
My brother, whom a lot of people know that played for Bobby Rush, they brought their family here,
Right.
and he was like, "Man, this is better than all." Because during COVID, the city of Nashville shut down, so they had smaller shows in parks.
Yes,
He
sir.
said this was better than what is it, Lakeshore Park, whatever park that is in Nashville, and he was like, "We gonna start coming down here more often."
Oh,
So
wow.
kudos to that.
Yes, sir. Appreciate that. And I saw he also endorsed those grill hot dogs we had as well too. So I'll make sure they're on cap.
He did. He
Yes, sir.
did. He did.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But moving right along, we want to get to our park maintenance division. We just want to bring to the attention that we want to thank the hardworking men and women there in our park maintenance division. We want to thank our manager there, Ms. Sandra Bell, and all of the superintendents and hardworking men that we have there, men and women throughout our parks and park maintenance division in Minell Gardens. Just want to recall to everybody that we service 57 parks, 72 athletic fields, and one botanical garden. And we are able, we have 57 parks throughout the city that we are responsible for, 72 athletic fields,
Okay, I know.
one botanical,
Thank you.
one botanical garden, which we're so pleased about because we have seen over the past 3 years with our previous director who had the foresight enough to deal with being creative with the fees for renting out the botanical garden. We've seen an influx of activities for weddings, receptions, repasses, graduations, things of that nature. So we're pleased about what's taking place there, but we want to draw your attention to how this year we had a youth botanica camp to take place on site, and we had 52 participants. And at this botanical camp, they were able to learn about horticulture, the science of gardening, greenery. They just had a wonderful, wonderful time. And we're very excited about it. It was something we didn't throw together at the last minute, but it was an idea that our hardworking staff under Ms. Bell out at Park Maintenance came up with and partnered with a few people, and they had a wonderful time. So we're looking for that to double next year. I mean, it's wonderful when you can get young folks involved in gardening and farming and things of that nature to understand the science of it. And so we just want to say with the decision that the councils have made last year in terms of what Parks and Recreation will be responsible for, I can come to you proudly and say that we had a decrease in 61.7% in 311 calls for calls for service for park services. And what I mean by that is that someone calling to say that the park needed attention in terms of was trash over the place, it needed cutting, or this was down, the trees was down here, or something was down there. We did a statistical data analysis, and it was 61.7% decrease in call for 311 service for our park service. So we are extremely proud about that because now Parks and Recreation are focusing on what Parks and Recreation is designed and was designed to do. So we want to thank the council for that. Moving right along to our golf. Of course, we had a lot of tree removals at our golf course. As we stated earlier, we have a new irrigation, up-to-date irrigation system that's tied into a overall IT system to where it's on a timer now, which is why most of the golfers are coming by and saying, man, we haven't seen the greens look like this in a long time. It feels good inviting my friends coming from out of town to come and play around with us and things of that nature. This is what we're hearing coming from those who are golfers that are stating about our golf course. And so we're just thankful about what's happening out there. I just want to bring to your attention that we hosted up to this point 8 more tournaments, Mr. Chair, 8 more tournaments than we have had in the previous years. And so we've always had about 3 or 4, one being the major tournament being the Mayor's Cup. But we have had 8 additional tournaments to take place at our golf course because of how the greens are looking and the style of play is taking place. And so we're very, very excited about that. Of course, as we stated in 2 councils before, we're reimagining what's taking place with Grove Park. And we'll speak to that a little bit when we get to the ask list on the page to tell you where we are with that. But we're very excited about where we're going to go where Grove Park is concerned. And we also want to remind you that we do have a driving range at Buddy Bucks Park. As you first turn in, there's a driving range right to the left of Buddy Bucks Park. So Deputy Crump and myself, we're focusing with that along with Manager Hutton to where we're going to be taking a strong look at how we're going to get that back up, even to the degree of possibly having a youth organization to where that'll be dedicated for our youth to be able to go and have its own area to be able to practice and learn the science of golf. Okay? So, last but not least, before we get into our ask list, I want to get right into the elephant in the room, which is our zoo. I'm sorry? Oh, it's page 7. Thank you. That's why I got my right hand here. Clicked it back, page 7. So, of course, with the zoo, I want to highlight some of our great things that we're doing. Our Zippity Doo Day, our Boo at the Zoo, our ice cream safari, which a lot of you have come and participated with, and our back to school drive, which will be taking place, Lord say the same, this weekend. That we've been able to offer that in partnership with Constituent Services. All of these events have yielded a great turnout, has been profitable as well. But I'm more concerned with the participation that is taking place. The unfortunate thing that I have to come and just be honest with you, we have been underperforming, and we've been underperforming at the zoo largely due to the fact of how we've been able to take in payments. Um, I'm not putting everything on that, but I have to say that is 80 to 85% of what we have. If you were privy to the press conference that the mayor conducts every Monday, we gave the numbers then on how just in the last 90 days we missed out on just south of $20,000 in 90 days simply because of not being able to take electronic payments. And so our train was down at the time. I know it doesn't sound like much, but believe it or not, when that train is operating, um, it brings in quite a great deal of revenue because the children and adults alike love riding that train. I know you gave me a lot of pressure on the Councilman Harley because I know you say save your spot on the caboose part, but I got you straight. But but those are some things that we were not able to have in place to be able to bring that influx of revenue. I want to thank Mr. Dave Witzel and Miss Angela White and the hardworking staff out there for being creative and trying to do their best to have as many activities at the zoo as possible. But I can sit here and say to you that even while underperforming, outside of the negativity that has been going around in social media with the pictures, as we stated Monday, 85 to 90% of those pictures that were circulating consisted of the inhabited or the area in which the animals live in. And so there's designed to be like they're in their natural habitat. Those parts are going to look like a zoo, not the part that you're walking down to get to the display. Those are not what you saw an influx of. Now, can we do a better job? Are we going to do a better job? Absolutely, because we're going to have the fundings there, and we have teamed with our state legislators as well as other organizations like ZAP and Revitalize Mississippi, who have made a commitment in helping us in what we need to make the zoo better and to make it more profitable. So we're on pace now for at the end of the month, we should be in position to take electronic payments. We want to thank Dr. Reed and her hardworking staff over at IT for going out and finding the necessary payment mechanism that can be used citywide, but specifically that we are excited about it at the zoo to be able to take those electronic payments for forms of electronic payments. Our train was just inspected yesterday, literally less than 24 hours ago. We passed inspection, and so now we up and ready to roll with the train. So we know that those are not things that help right now, but I just want to say to the council, with your continual support, we vow that you will be able to see a definite increase, not only in revenue, but in activity and the narrative being changed on the Jackson City Zoo. We just don't want you to give up on us or to lose faith in us, because I promise you, we're coming. We're on the way of what we need to make the city of Jackson Zoo be what it needs to be. So before we get to our ask list, and this really kind of concludes the presentation, I would like to ask, if I can, Mr. Chair, are there any questions where the zoo is concerned? Because I know it's a hot topic and we don't want to run from it.
Yeah. So I want to just make sure. All right. So we, throughout the year of 24, gave what, Mr. Mellenbecker? Is it 1.8?
Yes. So let me just confirm. Yeah, I think it was 1.8 was appropriation.
And all 1.8 was approved by this body in
Yes.
separate orders?
Yeah, I think it was the adoption. In fact, let me just double check here. No, 1.6 for FY24 was actually 120. Yeah, so it looks like 1.6.
1.6.
1.6.
So 1.6 was approved in some form or fashion in the order.
The budget adoption,
The budget adoption.
right, when the 2024 budget was adopted.
All right.
Yeah.
So the $700,000 that was a transfer from the general fund that I guess you have counted as revenue, where did that come from?
Yeah, so that's the appropriation, right? So when you adopt your budget.
So
right,
that appropriation is in a 1.6?
1.6, right, and then we transfer from general fund to Fund 390 is the zoo, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so that.
So the 700,000 that you're showing, and the reason I just want to clarify,
Right.
because I do believe, and I've had there's a lot of people that want to help the zoo. I've been made aware of some other groups that want to divvy up some monies quickly to help the zoo. But I think it's important that there's nothing out there that's misleading.
Right.
So with the 700,000 that was presented to us during your overview, that 700,000 was budgeted, right?
Right. It's
All right. It's 1.6 total.
1.6,
700,000 from that you count. Why not count? If you're going to do it like that, why didn't you count everything?
So remember, those numbers were running through July, right? So we've not yet gotten to the end of the fiscal year. At times, the transfers, so the transfers could happen monthly or quarterly, but at least, so by the end of the fiscal year, the transfer should be approximately the 1.6.
So based on what you're doing, because this is a new phenomenon when we come to the zoo, and again, it seems very misleading, especially when there's bad press about it. You would count that whole 1.6 as revenue?
Yes, for that fund. right?
Hold on. I want you to hear how this sounds.
Mhm.
The city provides 1.6 for the zoo to operate. And then you turn around and count 1.6 as revenue.
So for that fund, right, when you look at fund accounting, right, our budgets are based on fund accounting. So for Fund 390, when you start looking at what is the revenue, right? So there's a revenue mix. You look at the revenue that comes in from customer payments, the shop at the zoo, and any miscellaneous income that comes in through that method is your operating revenue. And then you do have the inflow that comes from the general fund to the Fund 390, which is the zoo, and that's part of your and you can, categorize it as other sources of revenue that comes in, right?
So is it going to be your practice throughout this city that revenue generating enterprises within this city, if the city gives it 1.6, then at the end of the year, when we budget out, you're going to say city gave 1.6, revenue in 1.6, because it's just showing that you're just breaking even across the board. And I don't know if that is generally a good accounting practice when it comes to a municipality. For example, what if somebody looking at this says, I see you, Councilman, says, okay, I'm looking at what was presented and 1.6 was given by the city and they made 1.6 in revenue. We were gonna give $500,000, but no need to doing that because it looked like they've improved, because based on last year's presentation, you did not do that.
Yeah. So, and I'll share this, right? I think when you start looking at reporting, there are various reports you can look at, right, and how things are categorized. If you're going to look at your, financial reports, this would be a special revenue fund. There's a breakdown, right? When you look at the bottom number, that's just a composition of all the revenue that comes in, which includes your transfers, your fund balance, and so forth. And so when you want to understand what the general makeup is, there's a breakdown, right? In our budget, in our financial reports, it all outlines all the sources of funding. And I think, the question that comes up, if you just look at the bottom line, for instance, when you look at a general fund, when we look at revenue, right, there are several categories that make up that bottom line. And so to properly understand all the sources, you actually have to look at the detailed report. And so, with all these other funds that receive appropriations, it's the same thing for planning and development, right? They receive an appropriation from the general fund. And the way the budgets are adopted, right, it's revenues and expenditures. But if you want to look at other financial reports, there are certain rules that govern how you bring in that money, which can be inflows or outflows, right? Your deferred inflows or deferred outflows. So it does require understanding, the actual composition, right, of the report that's been reviewed. And where clarity has to be offered, we are happy to do that.
I hear you, but it is not a good look when the precedent of this city and how we have showed that revenue is different from what you're saying now. Councilwoman Lindsay.
Yes, thank you, and I apologize to everyone for being tardy this morning, and I know I've missed a few things. Mr. Mallenbeck, I've always just thought of this process that we're going through as determining the operating budgets. So I'm a little confused by considering the operating budget that's set forth by the council as revenue. That's confusing to me. But that aside, what was the revenue for the zoo this year?
Yeah, so through July, I think it was about 36,000. So this is from admissions, fees, and rentals, right? $36,367.
But the updated number is 41, correct?
I
Is the
don't,
updated number 41?
I haven't seen the 41, and I can, it also depends on what the time frame, right? Because that would make a
I'm
difference.
just saying, as
Yeah.
of today, while we're here, what's your updated number?
Yes, sir. The CFO is correct. But since then, to present, is actually, we're just south of 60,000 because
Just south of,
that was an additional 18,000 that had not been transferred over. So the numbers that the CFO had up to February is correct, but up to July is correct. But since that time to present, we're just south of 60,000 now.
okay, so which would mark an improvement from last year?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I just want to offer the clarification. This is not something that's new. This is what has been happening with the city. When you go back, and Sharon, I don't know if you want to talk about this, but when you go back years, that's the way the city has been adopting the budget and the reporting, right? So this is not something new that we just came up with. Yeah.
Sharon, would you like to speak to that? And I want to keep in mind, we're talking about historic precedents for presentations to the council as operating revenue.
Sharon Timms, if you look on page 11, I may be able to help you understand this. The parks gets 2 meals every year. That's part of their revenue. That is part of the revenue that comes in. And then you have, of course, your homestead and all that they get. And then you'll see the rest of how their income comes in, which is administrative fees. That's all of their other revenues that come in. The golf courses, everything. When their budget is put together, their operating budget this year to be adopted is $7,031,959. What we have to do is make up, that's where the appropriation comes in. Whatever those revenues don't meet, then the general fund has to appropriate that amount of money over there for them to have an operating budget.
So is that operating revenue as far as, last year, we had a clearer picture. And anyone that may want to help the zoo, again, it's a clearer picture. So when you're showing basically breaking even, that more so, to me, is a misleading picture.
You're right, because they're not actually breaking even. The general fund is having to supplement their income
All right.
because of them not bring, an enterprise should work on their
Operate
own.
like a business.
Right, they should work on their own revenues. But when that comes up short, the general fund has to support that.
But in a true look, in order to make sure that there's no shortfall, we need to be able to see the difference. Okay.
The difference is going to be the appropriation.
Right. Yeah. And what we know now is about 60 grand so we need to know that if we're appropriating 1.6, we need to start setting goals and benchmarks that if the zoo's going to be here, then it needs to start showing this and not showing any misleading picture whatsoever. Councilman Hartley.
Yes, Sharon. Do you have your information on the revenue? I'm interested in what percentage increase are we looking from last year in revenue or participation? Do we have any of those figures? Or perhaps, Director, maybe you could help as well.
One thing I'd like to say, he did hit on something that part of their revenue problem coming in was not being able to take credit cards. I just signed all the documents with Global. We've been working with IT for a while to try to get this going so that we would have that throughout the city because that seems to be an overall thing. But I had to set up a separate account because if someone disputes a credit card or it comes back, then they want to pull back from that account. And so I wanted that to be a separate account. So, but the departments will be able to take credit cards and any form of payment now. So I think that will help throughout the city.
Yeah,
So,
and, you know, I've been over there at the gate and stuff, and I've seen countless folks just turned away. No plastic. They're, you know, they have to leave. And so I think that's a big issue. But I'm curious, how much progress have we made within the last year? And, and revenue, and, because I know you've been doing a lot of work over there.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Councilman Harlan, for that, and thanks CFO and Mr. Hims. When you say progress, are you speaking to something specifically, Councilman?
Numbers for revenue, you know, just how are we doing? I think the last discussion, last budget hearing was, you know, we're spending an exorbitant amount of money for the zoo. And then based on that, we came up with a strategic plan.
Yes, sir.
You start laying out stuff. You start making all sorts of changes, and really the events over there have been spectacular.
Yes, sir. Thank you,
So
sir.
I just wanted to see, you know, are we looking at revenue increases? And then, do you have any numbers or anything?
I don't have any numbers to speak specifically to what that increase looks like.
Okay.
But I can say just from knowing the operations of where we are, I think it would be an honest assessment to say that we are probably breaking even, as Mr. Chair would say. And I would say that due to the fact that of the expenditures that we've been having to do this year. This was the first year, I think it was in the last 5 years, we came up with that there were countless days that we had to shut down the zoo simply because we had major infrastructure situations that we had to repair. And although you're talking, first of all, the train was not running, we couldn't take electronic payments, and we had to shut down for numerous of days because of water infrastructure. So I would say that would probably be an honest assessment to say that we're right where we were this time last year, if not charting maybe a little bit below, just to be totally honest with you.
But that's with major investments.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. With those things taking place. Again, now the flip side of that has been with our partners coming on, more activities that we've been having as compared to last year would have driven all of those things up had we been able to be open. So I would say that's where we're trending at current, where that is concerned. But definitely the number of income brought in is different from what administration had at the time of turning this in, because that additional 18,000 was just added to, or will be added to, if not happen today, possibly this week or by Monday.
And the other parts of Parks and Recs, the other parks and stuff, how are they doing? I mean, comparatively speaking, I know the zoo is a work in progress. You made a lot of investments, but for the amount of investments, comparatively speaking to the other areas, I know we bought a golf court, cars,
Yes, sir.
and a lot of other things. So how are we doing there versus other areas?
Yes, sir. We're on an upward trend with the golf course, which is, we're pleased to report that, as we said earlier, we're in an upward trend with that. Although there are no revenues brought in for the use of the park, there are revenues brought in for the use of renting the pavilions and the renting of the community centers. Those numbers are up. And so by us having a reduction in 311 calls, meaning that the parks are now cleaner, the parks are now more vibrant, there are more attractions coming in. So all of those numbers are up. Like I said, Councilman, we don't want to run away from it. The only thing that we have to be able to stand and take an account for is that at current, we're underperforming at the zoo.
And how many animals do we have out there?
Sir,
How many animals do we have?
how many animals do we have? I don't know that number
So
specifically.
like 102?
It's I would say at last count, I recall 107, but let us get the actual facts so we can be on record as far as what it actually is.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right, before we go to Councilwoman Lindsay.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry if I missed this, but will you explain to me where that $18,000 is coming from?
What's that account for, Nancy?
So it's a transfer from another
Yes, ma'am.
account? It's a city transfer?
It's from our online account where participants were able to pay for activities that we were having. To give you an idea, something like daycare day, high school day, to where they were able to make these payments online through that particular type of method. So from an electronic standpoint, that was the only way we were able to receive electronic payments is by having that. But now, according to what finance will have us going, we'll be able to take it directly on site. But that's where those funds are coming from.
Okay, so these are online, these are transfers from the online.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
All right, before you go, let me ask this question as far as the credit card transaction, because I know
Okay.
the wider, the better. Is it going to be the traditional method, or is it going to be, and I'm going to demonstrate, because I don't know what to call it, but my daughter and them do it when they go into the store and but they use their phone. Y'all going to be able to do that?
Yes.
Or they will? All right.
They will have credit card readers just like you see in the stores.
Right.
Municipal court will have them, parks will have them, all of their golf courses and stuff. We've tried to cover everyone who takes in cash. We have tried to make sure that that happens. Going through Global, just to give you a little reminder that it will not cost the city anything to use it. So we're really thinking that's going to help us a lot. There's a lot of things we're doing that is going to help increase our operating transfers. Like I said, we're looking all over the place where we feel like we are losing money, and we're trying to make those corrections.
Yeah, no, and the only reason I ask, when it comes to credit cards, I'm still old school. I use actual physical cards. But I noticed my daughters and some of them, they don't have no cards. They got their phone and they do something and they going, and I'm like, okay, if that's safe to them. But we will have that capacity. Okay. All right, you had something, Mr. Millenbecker?
Yes, and I just wanted to make sure that there was some clarity here, and I think some of the questions that are being asked. So I think when we're trying to measure revenue, right, the best picture to look at is what your operating revenues would be from admissions, fees, and rentals, right, for the zoo. That would be a true depiction of the revenue performance that comes in, right? So you separate your operating revenue, and then you have your non-operating revenue, which will be transfers. So, Ms. Lindsay, you asked a question about the 18,000. That would be considered an operating revenue, right? Because these were fees paid by customers. So that will be captured under admissions fees and rentals. The non-operating revenue is what is transferred from the general fund, right? So if you're trying to distinguish from a measurement standpoint, it is what you want to look at, right?
I appreciate the clarification, Mr. Millenbecker.
Just, if I can, do you want to go ahead and get that answer to Councilman Hartley?
Yes, sir, if I could, Mr. Chair. We have 150 animals, 40 different species.
So 150 animals, 40 species.
40 different species.
Different species.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And that method of payment, Madam President, was through a PayPal account, was online, is what we were talking about. Just wanted to get the committee the actual facts.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Talk to us, the zoo in this fiscal year. Your imagination, your dreaming, things to do, to have what are you going to do? And I guess this kind of aligns, Councilman Hartley, with your question last year about their bigger projects. What are some of the things that you're planning on or foresee? Are there any partnerships or anything as we go through and as we look through this?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question, sir. Well, first and foremost, as the major overhaul with the internet was concerned, being able to offer not only having internet to take electronic payments, but to have Wi-Fi throughout the zoo.
Okay.
I know that that may not sound like a huge deal, but it really is where everybody, wherever they go, want to be able to have access to Wi-Fi. And so now working with our IT department and what we have aboard, we're right there of being able to offer Wi-Fi throughout the zoo. So that's one major improvement. Second is that we're continuing to work with other zoos throughout the country on an animal exchange project. Most zoos are now in positions to where we can't just go out and purchase an animal. I mean, it's $150,000 just for a giraffe alone. So we just can't go out and purchase an animal, but what zoos do are exchanges. You let me borrow this animal for a while, and I'll let you borrow this. That's one of the major activities that we're looking to do that would make a difference in what we're offering. Another thing, more activities, of course, where we're having more high school days, more elementary days. Those things that we're going to be able to offer to bring about. Of course, with disc golf taking place, that's actually in the park, but it's going to drive attraction more so on the zoo side. $2 Tuesdays. We're looking to bring that back and have that back implemented. Just little things like that, along with our splash pad, getting it more operational and more features to be able to offer to it. The community house that you see when you go get ready to go to pay for admission directly to your far left, there's a white building there, the community house. We've had to turn several organizations and several families away from being able to rent that out because we need to remodel it. We need to bring it up to standards to a degree to where people will have a good time once they rent it out.
You have a cost estimate?
To remodel, yes, sir.
Because I'm sure that there are organizations that would want to look at, I mean, I think it's just a fact of knowing, you know.
Yes, sir. To bring it where we will like for it to be with new restrooms, AC units, painting, and everything else that's needed right now, we're looking at just south of about $28,000
Okay.
to bring it where we need to be, to where it would be a community center where we would have to turn people away because there's not any openings for them to be able to be there.
Okay. Are you including this in your ask?
We did not, no, sir.
Are you?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Like I said, the Department of Administration has had a restructuring this year. We've looked really deep. Sometimes that's painful when you try to look at your own weaknesses. But we have tried to correct a lot of those, and we are correcting a lot of them. Bringing on the grants team has been, we've had them meeting with every department, seeing what those needs are, seeing what grants is available out there to help us, to help all of them get up to speed and where they can bring in more revenue. That is one of the main aims and goals of a Department of Administration this year, is to cut down on expenses and bring up our revenues.
And if I can, Mr. Chair, I'd like to, Ms. White just reminded us that she just had a meeting with the Jackson Airport to where they're looking to go in partnership with us in terms of having either a display or something on their digital board as when people are coming into the city of Jackson to let them know that the zoo is here and to be able to come out and visit that. Now, so we're still looking at what the numbers will look like on the low end and what it will look like on the high end. I know the high end is them actually having a display. We're looking at possibly having Big Mike, which is our white rhino, having him displayed, not him, but a model of him, displayed in the airport, and what the cost of that would be. So there's some advertising costs and things of that nature that we're going to do. If you recall, when you first of all blessed me to be confirmed in this office, I stated that we were going to take a heavy, robust approach to our media, our advertising. And so that's what we have to really do. We have to do a better job at marketing the zoo, not only just here in Jackson, but we have to market in Louisiana, we have to market in Alabama, we have to market in Florida, we have to market in Tennessee, because Jackson sits in the middle of where all of these people are traveling to. So we feel with better advertisement and appropriating funds to do better at marketing, that's going to drive in the revenue as well too. Because we have citizens in Jackson who still didn't realize that the zoo is still open. So we know people who are traveling to and from may not know. So that's what we want to attach as well.
Councilman Hardy.
Dr. Muhammad, and along that same line, you kind of got to my point. How are we doing on the marketing end? I've been over there several times, and I met folks from out of town. And they said they heard about it on the radio.
Yes, sir.
How are we doing marketing-wise, and what other things are we looking at marketing? How effective are we in getting those outside
Those
visitors?
engagements that we've seen with just that influx, and my budgeting supervisor just made me aware that we just received an additional $5,000 yesterday that was coming in from taken in. Was that from admissions? From admissions and other activities that we had at the zoo that we haven't even had a chance to turn that into treasury yet. That's a direct impact from the marketing. So Ms. White has been instrumental in reaching out to our media outlets, social media outlets, and our radio advertisement, as well as trying to get some PSAs out on TV to let everyone know what we're doing at the Jackson Zoo. So yes, sir, that we have directed or redirected funds towards that marketing account so that we could take a robust approach like I promised we would with that. But we're going to need to do more in reaching out, and the airport, billboards, and other things, advertising in other states are going to get us where we need to be in that effort.
That'll be great. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir.
As we talk about zoo, and then I want to get to the others, so that because we got some other stuff to do. You know, I understand the critical moment that we are in, especially when we look at the city putting anything between 1.6 to 1.8, and then the revenue somewhere between 60 to 80,000. Okay, but I also understand, you know, the importance of making sure that we give something the opportunity to work, but then that we also put our best foot forward while being honest with where we are. I know that in order to shutter a zoo, it's going to take a whole lot of money, you know, because you got to move the animals, you got to do, and then who wants a big vacant piece of property in the middle of Ward 5 in Capitol Street that could be expanded to every. So I want to challenge to really think outside of the box when we talk about reimagining the zoo. Let me ask this question. Do you have concessions?
Sir.
Concessions.
Yes, sir. We have the ability for concessions there. Yes, sir.
You have the ability. All right. So let me just, and I just want to just put you on the map of brainstorming. Maybe like some of the other urban zoos, what can be done is that, and when we talk about ways to strategically use anything that we can, whether it's ARPA or investment monies out of fund balance, whatever, maybe since you're going to have Wi-Fi out there, maybe you talk to Cups or you talk to some other local restaurants and have them at a place that's non-ticketed so people can come eat lunch and come do brunch or do whatever. And that's a non-ticketed. They want to see the animals, they pay, they pass through this little food court. But maybe you do a food court right there and bring everything, you know what I'm saying, on the outside that's non-ticketed, and you advertise that. Because I would love to go to lunch, you know. Virgin, I would go to lunch and have lunch sitting outside at a wonderful location downtown, on Capitol Street, you know. But I think we got to start thinking outside of the box of other ways of revenue than just come see the animals.
Yes, sir.
I think we got to start thinking about, displays that you don't have, having a virtual display, especially if you're doing Wi-Fi. Because with Wi-Fi, it opens up to so many different possibilities.
Absolutely, yes,
You
sir.
could do an African safari virtual display, and people come in and put the virtual goggles in, and then Mike can get a local business to do a laser tag. You got to start thinking of other things outside to make it almost like a mini Six Flags without all the roller coasters, right there on Capitol Street. And so I want to challenge that. And I also
We
want to
accept that
challenge
challenge. Yes, sir.
the administration for us to really get aggressive. We have a short window here. September. Get with USDA. With that land out there, with the urban initiative overseen by Leslie Glover in D.C., get with them. There is program and monies that they trying to deal with right now. We are the real, true, only urban city in the state of Mississippi. USDA, most of their funding was for rural areas. It is now a new urban initiative that was just launched 4 months ago. All right, get with USDA. Capitalize on that urban initiative, gardens, fresh food. Then you have, that with the growing of fresh food, you have your high schools participating in workforce development for farming. Those are the opportunities that are available. And I know we have a grants division, but in order to really work, you got to get out. You got to put some money into your travel budget and say, okay, we're going to USDA. Are we going to these different places to see what they have available? Your traditional grants is not just waiting for an appropriation or an announcement. It's going and saying, this is a city that we are in need. What do you have? And sometimes they will create something because a lot of those departments and agencies, they do it under executive order. And so I think it's important that we capitalize on those things and not just sit, on our hands and say, we're going to wait on, 1,000 people a week to come see a rhino. That's not going to happen.
Right.
So we got to really think outside of the box. All right. So
Yes,
I want to
sir.
challenge that.
Mr. Banks,
Yes, sir. Councilman Grizel, how you doing?
I'm great. Thank you. Dr. Muhammad, thank you for your presentation. Councilman Banks, his comments really made me think about some things because when we think about the zoo, it's a zoological park, right? And so that park piece is what really, in my mind, presents a litany of opportunities for growth, a litany of opportunities to generate revenue. I have a neighbor who's actually been writing me for the past 2 years about the city not having a butterfly garden. And, she was like, all you gotta do is plant flowers and, position a couple of butterflies there and just let them take care of themselves. And, I think that would be a good addition. You have McLean Lodge out there, they're making a killing off of a petting zoo. Somebody being able to just come in and feed some goats and whatever animals they have. Do we have anything like that at our zoo? I know people go down to Hattiesburg and feed animals, and along 49, there are just different types of attractions to pull in families. And I love the idea of maybe one day having, going to the zoo and having lunch at the zoological park, having lunch there. But I really want to see the zoo grow. I want it to be self-sustaining. And I love the fact that, again, what Councilman Banks was saying, have we considered talking to our federal lobbyists to see what other funding mechanisms are out there? Because they're really on fire right now. And I think a 5, maybe 20-minute conversation with them will really give us some enlightenment in terms of what we may be able to do in the near future.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Councilman Grizel. Mr. Vice President, thank you. Yes, sir. I have not spoken with any federal partners, but given the information that was just provided a few minutes ago, I will be getting with the administration, and we'll see how best forth to go to make that happen. I have been in touch with our state legislators who are made a commitment to, they have helped and will continue to help even further in this upcoming fiscal year. But the federal part, I had not taken a look at that, and I thank you for that information. That's something we're going to dive in right away. And you're right, we have to continue to think outside of the box of some things that we're going to do, like the fishing rodeo that we did, and how we need to make that larger, and disc golf that we have coming, and we're going to be offering night disc golf. No other place offers that, and those who participate in disc golf are asking for it. So that's another way that we can help drive and bring in things. But I think you're right, Mr. Chair and Mr. Vice President. We have to reach out to those entities that seem to be on fire in terms of helping urban areas and what they're trying to do. And so seeking grants and working through our grants department that we have located here in the city, I have no doubt that we will make a robust approach in going after those dollars. Those are the best dollars, we grant dollars.
Go ahead, Mr.
And
Grizel.
one more thing, if you think about children always come with money. And, you know, even at the federal level, you know, if you're planning a program at the zoological park and you say, hey, this is for STEM, or this is for even literature, there are some funds out there that the city can apply for to help educate more children in our area. I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Grizel. Yes, Mr. Mellenbecker.
Yes, so Councilman Grizel, I know you mentioned federal lobbyists. When they were here, they did hear Mr. Banks talk about USDA, and so they had a call yesterday with our grants division. So Dr. Mohammed, I'll ask that in your meeting with the grants division, again, you can bring this up and get connected with our federal lobbyists because based on what they heard the other day, they started the conversations yesterday. And also I did ask them to check with NRCS, is that Homer Wilkes, right?
Yes.
So, and our grants administrator has a relationship with some folks, and so they're setting up these meetings.
Yeah,
I just
Mr.
want to make sure that you are in the loop as well.
Thank you, sir.
Mr.
Go ahead.
Mellenbecker,
Yes, sir.
if you don't mind, please loop me into that conversation as well.
On USDA?
Yes.
Okay,
Or any of the federal delegation.
sure.
Okay.
I'd
Yes,
like
sir.
to speak
With
them
Mr.
directly.
Stroud.
Pardon?
With Mr. Stroud.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, with our lobbyists and, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All right. All right. Anything else on the Zoom? I appreciate allowing the time for us to just.
Oh, no, sir. Thank you for allowing us time.
Have some, because I think it's important that we really look at, you know, opportunities. You know, we just can't sit down and expect it to work. We got to go get it.
Yes, sir.
And I think, again, that there are opportunities out there for us to do it. I mean, we could talk all day long and reimagine, and maybe even if you get a staff of people and get with Councilman Hartley, maybe there's a group of people and y'all just have a think tank session. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you got a lot of farmers around the state of Mississippi. How about they get their fresh produce during harvesting time and they each put a farm booth out there? You know, so that there are ways to do it. All right, colleagues, the next part is, I'm sorry, I'm taking over your presentation on purpose.
Oh, no, you find it.
The next part of his deals with his ask, 7 heavy-duty crew trucks, $100,000 in security cameras, $75,000 to address debris removal, $80,000 for additional equipment. In addition, $1.3 million to revitalize Grove Park, and $65,000 to repair Minell Gardens. I'm not on my calculator if we could get a total. Let me ask you this while we're working on a total for that. Your 7 heavy-duty crew trucks, is that on a lease program or are you talking about buying? Is that throughout his lease operation?
We can put it on the lease. we're getting this now, but
Okay.
we can put it on the lease. We're kind of keeping up with that because I will need to know about how much that is so I can put the paper out there to know where we are, which banks are willing to come in and give us the lowest interest rate.
All right, will it be with the company that we have a relationship with and there's a revolving lease, or would this have to be something established new that will come before us in the order?
We have to put it out.
Okay, we have to put it out. Okay. All right, so that's the only thing that we're unsure about, the 7 heavy-duty trucks? And the question I was asking her, is that for a lease program or to buy?
Okay, from my understanding, I think the discussion was for master lease, correct?
Master lease? Okay, and
Yes.
that's what we're talking about. All right. But everything else is basically a hard number. You want 100,000 in security cameras, 75,000 to address debris removal, 80,000 for additional equipment.
And Mr. Chair, if I can interrupt for 3 seconds for that.
Go ahead.
If you could see the bold print on that, as far as the justification dealing with the cameras, where we have cameras installed, we did a 90-day data analysis and we have seen a 48.3% call for service reduction by JPD in those areas where we have installed cameras in the parks or the community centers. So the cameras are being effective, and they aid to JPD in terms of providing some form of electronic police officers to be on hand. That's tying back to the RTCC, and of course the 75,000 for the tree removers. We see every year what we go through. Every year we go through storms coming through and the trees being down. We just need that in the budget, and of course to continue to do what we're doing well and to go to the next level for the equipment and for the 1.3 for revitalize and grow park. We're working with administration in that effort. There may be some things forthcoming, but we'll be waiting to hear back from them. And for the Minear Garden Westbrook House, we know the historical significance of the Westbrook House. It too is a place that has housed and is continuing to house a lot of revenue coming in by way of weddings, receptions, graduation, so on and so forth, but it has become very aged and it's becoming very noticeable in its aging. And so we just want to revitalize it and make it more vibrant so we can continue to offer that to the citizens and bring in even more revenue. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And just before we go to Councilwoman Lindsay, I just want to make sure, and the addition was 28K, and that's the clubhouse at the zoo. Is that what it's called? The clubhouse?
For the zoo, the community center?
The community center?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, all right. And I assume that 311 is supposed to mean 911.
For,
The police. I just assumed.
oh, no, sir. Well, you know, when people call and make, saying that there's somebody hanging out at.
They call 311?
Right, they're called
Okay.
the 311. Yes,
All
sir.
right, Madam President.
Yes. So, Dr. Mohammed, $1.3 million to revitalize Grove Park and this laundry list, that doesn't seem like nearly enough money. And are you thinking you might be able to get some state or federal funds or some grant funds to augment the 1.3?
Oh, absolutely.
Or would the 1.3 be used for matching dollars? I mean, that is a drop
Oh,
compared to what you really need for
Oh,
that.
yes, ma'am. We're looking at that in addition to, like you said, some matching funds and some state grants that we've been able to possibly identify at this point, in addition to assistance coming from the administration.
What kind of assistance coming from the administration?
I don't know exactly what it looks like. I was just only told that it will be looking.
Well, revitalizing. And so,
I agree.
it's to ask for what you,
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
I agree. Yeah. Just for our memory, the approximately 2 million or more that's left over in ARPA. What did the administration say they were going to use it for?
Yes.
A revolving loan fund?
Yeah, so that was one of the ideas the mayor presented.
Okay.
But it's been explored,
It's being explored.
right? Yeah.
Okay. If we kind of knew where we were with our fund balance, we might be able to make a nice investment, because I do feel like Grove Park is important, you know. Nevertheless, so I think we got everything here. Let me ask this question, Mr. Muhammad,
Yes, sir.
and I think that this is where you're bleeding the most. Security at your parks. I know there are cameras, but it seems like soon as you get something fixed, or get lights fixed, or get new copper or fixtures put in, somebody, comes in and tears it up. I wish, and I don't know, colleagues, if there's a way to do this, that we can limit the amount of, or find a way by law to not allow people to take in copper, because that's what they're doing. They getting all that copper, they go in the can man, and they're making money.
Absolutely.
But I mean, the countless amount of times you've been out the battlefield, Forest Hill, Buddy Butts, all these parks, trying to repair fixtures. West Side, after them being fixed, revitalized, then all of a sudden the copper out of the lights are gone, everything's gone. I know that we talked, and there are security cameras, and I think people are kind of getting used to them. And I know that police department talked about park rangers. My concern is, and I wish we had somebody from PD here. Colleagues, I was riding last night. I had to go out and get some dog food because my Rawa was hungry, and I forgot that I didn't get it. And I just happened to ride down Forest Hill, and the gates were open, and I saw headlights back toward the back. This is at Forest Hill. And I thought that those park rangers were supposed to, at a certain time, lock those gates. And when they're not doing that, then at 3, 2, 4 o'clock in the morning, the $500,000 we just spent, or the $200,000 you just spent to redo the park, has now just been destroyed. And so we got to close the back door on vandalism at these parks, and it's not just our parks. From my understanding, Mr. Mellenbeck, and I was talking to Councilwoman Lindsay about this, someone had the audacity to take a four-wheeler and drive on a new turf at Forest Hill High School football field and damage the turf. I mean, people are just doing stuff that makes absolutely no sense. And, when you want to be able to, like in the 90s or in the 80s, I used to go to Timberland and go play on the playground, but now it's almost, you got to restrict that because people don't value the assets in their community like they used to. What is the plan, if any, to stop that bleeding as far as the investments that we make into Battlefield or whoever with those bathrooms, whatever, to stop the theft and the vandalism?
One of the researches that we've come up with and are looking to explore is that lighting companies, they're taking a lot of this copper from, as you said, fixtures. And so now a lot of companies are starting to offer an aluminum solution to that replace where the copper once was, using aluminum. Because not only would it be less attractive for the thieves to take, because they're not getting any money on that. Now, the unfortunate drawback to that is that sometimes it takes for the destruction that have taken place to see that it's aluminum there. So research has found through NRPA that what it's, because like you just said, it's not just our parks, it's happening throughout the nation. It's nationwide. And so what they're doing is actually doing what, like some stores, they will announce, we don't have more than $50 at any time in this drawer, that type of thing. So they're posting to where this lighting is offered through an aluminum conduit, something to that degree. That has been one of what we found so far in the industry, research-wise, one of the saving grace. Next one is to offer a way of being able to track, possibly by way of electronic-wise. They used to have what was called a pogo check. When you go on security rounds and you go to something, you have to put a wand there, and it registered a chip that you were actually there, and it was downloaded to show that you made your rounds. Thinking about actually getting with JPD to see about having that done so that it shows that the gates were actually being locked and unlocked, things of that nature. I know that the officers are being spread thin and sometimes they get called out for calls of service too, but that's another way that would help. And the third way was what Deputy Crump and I came up with. A lot of these, of our larger parks, they have backdoor entrance to them. And so we're looking at finding monies within the budget to be able to put up car stops throughout those back entrance to where they're not able to come in and have such accessibility to come and do those type of things. So these are the groundworks of what Deputy Crump and I have been looking at that we know will make a difference. And what it would also do is stop a lot of the illegal dumping.
Yeah.
See, some of our larger parks have illegal dumping because you have these backdoor channels that you're able to drive through to dump your mattresses, your garbage, your chairs, your sofa, things of that nature. So once we install these car stops, they're not going to have as free accessibility to be able to come in. So we believe with those three measures, we'll see a great reduction in some of the vandalism and theft that's taking place.
And that's in this budget?
Yes, sir.
That is in this budget? All
Yes,
right,
sir.
So everything else is, that you provided are your ask?
Correct. Yes, sir.
All right, here's the question.
Outside of the 28,000 for
Outside
the
of 28,000.
for
All right.
the, yes, sir.
All right. Son, if you make sure we get the math on all that, so that we know what it is. So if there was something that you could do without to help make this happen, if anything, what would it be?
Nothing. I mean, I needed all. I condensed that, but to answer wholeheartedly, if there was something that I could absolutely do without, I could go from 7 to 5 vehicles.
7 to 5 fields?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Make sure we get that, Sean. And then if you were to, based on your ask, categorize them, levels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, levels 1 through 7, what would that order be?
The vehicles would definitely be first.
So, okay, so the master lease would be first.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, sir.
All right, what would be your number 2?
Number 2 would be trees.
Okay,
Because that's absolutely just yeah. Trees would be 2. Believe it or not, I would not even list Grove Park because it is beyond, in my opinion, it is beyond prioritizing 1, 2, and 3. It is of the utmost importance. I can't even categorize it in another category. So I would say the vehicles, tree removal, and restoration to the Westbrook House will be my top 3.
okay. And then Grove Park is just your must-have on the other side.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yes, sir.
All right, yes, Madam President?
Quick question. Isn't the Monell House on the National Register? Isn't it a historic, isn't a historic property?
Not to my.
It is. I think it is. So my point is, if
said
you,
the
the,
Oh, the
the-
Monell House.
the Monell House.
Oh, the Westbrook House.
Oh, the Westbrook House, I mean, the Westbrook, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
The
well,
Westbrook House
sorry.
is.
All right. I don't know if you are aware of this, but the planning department could probably assist with grant funding from Archives and History, State Archives and History on that.
Mm.
If they have, they generally have a pretty sizable grant funding program. And I'm not sure about the timeline on that deadline.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. I was unaware of that. Thank you, Madam
Yes,
President.
thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know, Mr. Banks. may I
Yes, go ahead.
just- well, just one quick, I'm sorry I missed the part about the golf courses, but I just want to tell you that my son is really enjoying Pete Brown. And he didn't play on it for a long time, but he feels like there have been some really great improvements to that golf course. And he's taken friends and he plays all over the city and he's played all over the United States. not like Mr. Malumbeka's level, but, you know, he really is a major, he loves to play golf. And he thinks that the improvements that have been made really put Pete Brown back in the game as a good course to go play.
Thank you so much, and thank him for that, that wonderful compliment, and we'll strive hard to continue to keep the confidence up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Banks.
Yes, Mr. Vice President.
Dr. Muhammad, I want to first echo what Councilwoman Lindsay said about Pete Brown. You know, I just started golfing, and I really do enjoy my time out there. I'm still a little directionally challenged in terms of, you know, the drive.
Wait a minute.
But I'm just saying, but have you had any more conversations with parks, was that wildlife and fisheries with the state? Because again, you know, we talked about it before. They have a lot of opportunities for us to capture some funding from them. Anything but golf. They don't want to put much into golf, but
Right.
there are other opportunities there to help us to improve our parks. Baseball, you know, racquetball, a lot of other things that they're willing to do.
Yes, sir. We're continuing that conversation. Thanks in parts and principle to the connection that you helped us to make with wildlife and fishery. We thank you so much in that effort. We had a conversation several months ago to where they too, as we get ready to go into our budget, we're going to sit down and revisit some of the opportunities that they're going to be able to provide. So I want to thank you again for putting us in contact with that person. Along with Representative Bell, I spoke with him after our conversation. We talked, and just to update you, he said he had to offer an apology to you because he didn't realize exactly who you were speaking about, if you remember that conversation. But there are some things that he's going to be doing, that we're going to have a meeting next week to sit down and talk about some efforts that will be coming from the state to help with Pete Brown as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, Councilwoman Lindsay.
Yes, I just have to take this opportunity to say what I say every year, Mr. Malumbeka, almost every year. I believe one of the things we heard from you in your presentation in the beginning is that we do have for a bond, issuing some more bonds. And so I wanted I want to just say this one more time on the record. I believe our parks and our city auditorium are critically important to quality of life for and I maintain thank you. I can't think of anything more important than maintaining the green space in our communities and our neighborhoods. And the zoo, of course, is included in all of that. And so I would like to say again that I think we should consider a bond issue. It doesn't have to be huge, but some that would help us get over the hurdle and over the edge with the needs in our parks, our libraries, and at Thalia Mora Hall. And I don't know how you feel about that, Mr. Malumbeka, but I think we have just about run out of gas on what we are able to do within our own budget process.
Yes.
Yes, I appreciate that. And so if you recall, a few council meetings ago, maybe two or so, you approved the acceptance of technical support in our municipal bond equity strategic planning. And so that's exactly the conversations we're having now, is looking at communities that have not seen investments in a very long time. And that will be inclusive of our parks, libraries and so forth. So we're doing some studies. I think I don't know if uh, JRA will also share some thoughts that they have. They're preparing some information for us to begin considering. But what we've asked is to look at a more comprehensive view of investments that need to happen in the city, because if you look back, most of the investment has been so concentrated in, in one place, more or less. But we want to look at a more comprehensive view.
Thank you, and I really will look forward to hearing from that. Any timeline on that effort?
So for the technical assistance we're receiving, it runs from July through November. So the work, in fact, even our financial advisors, because they're part of that conversation, understand, the need for this timeline. So at least before November.
Well, I do appreciate that. I mean, our city has so many needs, and there are a lot of really important things, but this seems fixable to me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments for Parks and Rec? I think we have everything we need. If we need to reschedule like a makeup, not a makeup, but to hear from you again for deliberations, just to kind of get more into your request and how we do it, the clerk will be in touch with making sure that we can schedule that. With that being said, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. And if I could just say for the record, I think we can save time by just go ahead and approve it, and we don't have to worry about it. We'll be all right. Thank y'all.
We got a motion? That's right. All right, colleagues. So, and I'm looking at the clerk just to make sure because my memory's. Say it again. HR is here. Okay. All right. And planning development. That's next Thursday. Planning development is rescheduled to when? The end of the day. That's right. The end of today. All right. So it is around 10:35 now. We'll go ahead and do human resources right now. Amen. All right. No problem. Yes, sir. We'll recess for 5 minutes. All right. Okay. I think that's the Ward 3 mic I put over there. Okay. Yeah, I think we kind of moved it around. And then I had 3 over there. What's that, 3? Oh, that's 5. Okay.
Okay, all right.
What's that, Ward 3 right here? All right. All right. This body is now out of recess. Next, we have, gotta get this name right, the Department of Human Resources. I keep wanting to go back and say personnel, but the Department of Human Resources, Director Toya Martin, we're in your hands.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Toya Martin, Director of HR. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the council for giving me the opportunity to present our 24-25 budget to you all, talk about some of the progress that we've made this fiscal year, and also ask for some requests, not a lot, but some requests, and hoping that you all consider these requests. The HR department has about 15 staff members. Well, we do have 15 staff members, with myself included. I definitely would like to, again, take another opportunity to thank the wonderful, dedicated staff in the Department of Human Resources. They get up every morning to do a very thankless job. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank them. I mean, they are the people that make the department run. Again, we're not used to receiving a lot of recognition because we're not fighting fires and we're not fighting crime. However, HR, along with finance and administration and IT and legal, we are the foundation of the city of Jackson, okay? Because we do provide those support services to all of our employees. So I do want to take this opportunity to thank the staff of HR. Our services that we offer for the city of Jackson is HR and administration, talent acquisition, employee relations, career and succession planning, classification and compensation, compliance, and records management. A few of our HR strategies for this upcoming fiscal year is to implement and maintain our HR best practices, building a sustainable workforce, increasing our talent acquisition and staff retention, and also to create a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive workplace. I want to talk a little bit about some of the progress we've made this fiscal year. I know, Councilman Banks, you asked us to keep it simple. So a lot of the metrics that I was used to providing to you all, I did cut that and just kind of talked about just a few key performance indicators for this fiscal year, okay? Our hire rate for this fiscal year versus last fiscal year has increased. The hire rate for fiscal year 23-24 was 21%, and we increased that for this fiscal year to 26%. So our hire rate did increase this fiscal year versus last fiscal year. Some of those recruitment strategies that we use to help us increase that rate is to offer competitive wages. I know that you all have been seeing me come up before you all time and time again, requesting to increase pay ranges for certain classifications. We're not done. What we've been doing, and I believe I said this before to you all, that we have been meeting with departments individually to look at their current budget that they have, look at vacancies that they have, look at the positions that they have. And instead of filling those vacancies, look at ways to possibly increase the wages within their departments, within the current budget that they have. Most of the departments have been able to do that. That's the reason why those increases were able to happen in those departments. We have been advertising the full benefit package because as we all know, the city has great benefits. So we've been trying to really hone in on those great benefits that the city of Jackson offers along with the salaries. Branding and building our talent. Forging relationships with universities and colleges. We've been doing that as well. We have been working with Jackson State. We've been working with Hines Community College and other universities. And partnerships with professional organizations to kind of help us with our recruitment. Next is the turnover rate that I would like to discuss. We've made progress with our turnover rate as well. Our turnover rate for last fiscal years, which was 23-24, was 29%. That has decreased for this fiscal year to 22%. So we have made improvement with our turnover rate this fiscal year. And to talk about how we've been able to do that, some of the the retention strategies has been to training our middle managers. We know that those managers are the most important piece when it comes to retaining our talent that we have in the city of Jackson. So we have been offering a lot of training for our middle managers. We have been, again, focusing on compensation and pay, honing in on the trust between employees and senior management, because we have been noticing during the exit interviews, we've been kind of seeing some of the issues that has been going on in departments in terms of the reason why employees were leaving. So we've been taking those exit interviews and using those as a way for us to kind of figure out what we needed to do in terms of helping the retention rate. Rewards and recognition programs, little small things that we can do to help retain employees and help the working environment are things that we do in terms of records and recognition. Provide avenues for professional development. We have employees who need training, need to make sure that they are staying abreast with the new rules and policies. So we've been trying to help the departments in finding ways to send employees to different trainings and everything so that they can, help with their professional development. And also, lastly, preventing burnout by focusing on employee wellness. As we all know, we do have an employee clinic with the city of Jackson, and they have been very instrumental in helping with some of those issues that employees have been having. And actually, now I'm thinking about it, I do have a presentation right after mine because Todd Garlandson, who's the president, he's actually in Nashville opening up a new clinic. So he was unable to be here, but he did send me some data that I would like to present after I'm finished with mine. Vacancies. Another progress we've made this fiscal year is with our vacancies. For fiscal year 23-24, we had 234 vacancies, and that decreased this fiscal year to 153. So that's 81 less vacancies this year that we had last year. Now for me to go over my departmental budget needs. For personal services, and this is currently the budget that you all have. This is what I'm presenting to you all today, okay? $1,733 in personal services. Supplies and materials, $19,686. Other services and charges, $88,676. Capital outlay, $52,736. Contributions, $1,337. Debt service, $55,952, which gives me a total budget for this fiscal year for $1,220, $120.
All right, and just to be clear, this is already budgeted.
This is already budgeted.
This is within the book. Okay.
This is within the budget.
Okay. All right.
Yes. Now, my HR budget request for fiscal year 24-25, very small. So I wanted to go over that as well, okay? Personal service, I requested $31,070 to be added to personal services. This is for a part-time position that I have requested in my department. And also I requested to increase the benefits administrator position because, as we all know, we had some transition that happened in that division. I am in the process of recruiting for the benefits administrator position, and we understand that that position was not, the salary for that position was not competitive at all, especially, during the interview process. We have been, looking at the salary expectations. And in order for us to find a qualified person, we wanted to increase the salary for that position. So 10,000 of that is to increase the benefits administrator position.
It might eliminate a lot of the questions after. 10 grand of this 31
Yes,
is toward the benefits administrator.
yes, to increase the benefits administrator salary.
All right, will there have to be a scope change or anything like that?
Absolutely, it
Okay.
will be. And
All right.
I'll be bringing that before you all.
All right, and the other 21K, is
It's-
that a new position or
It's for a new position, a new part-time position.
new part-time position?
Yes,
And do you have any vacant positions?
no vacancies.
All right, so this is in
The
addition.
only vacancy I have is the benefits
Is the
administrator.
benefits administrator?
Yes.
But you have the rest of that money there.
Correct, I do.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Other services and charges, I asked for $5,000. And again, we talked about the importance of professional development. I requested that for 2 of my employees within HR to give them, I give everybody in the department a professional development, a budget of $2,500. It's not a lot, but they really appreciate it and they look forward to it every year. They can use that $2,500 to go to a conference, go to a workshop, take a class, anything related to HR that's going to benefit the city of Jackson and the HR department. So I've had 2 new employees to start prior to me coming before the council a couple of budget years ago and requesting additional professional development monies. So I have 2 employees that started since then. So I'm requesting $2,500 for each of those, which totals up to be $5,000. Okay, supplies and materials, $9,105. I am requesting a ID badge machine because currently when we have new employees to participate in onboarding, we send them to the JPD ID, the ID unit to have their badges taken. And we've noticed that, we should be doing ID badges in HR before we release employees to go to their work sites. So 5,000 of that, 6,000 of that is for ID badge. We've already received a quote. We already have the vendor that we want to work with. Actually, it's the same vendor that JPD uses, so we requested money for the ID badges. Also, lastly, the difference of that is I also requested 3 laptops for my department because our technology, our equipment, it's outdated, and we have been very patient in kind of working with it. IT has been really good in coming out and trying to update and give us more speed and everything. So we have requested 3 laptops for my department. So that totals up to be the $9,105, which gives me a grand total of my request, a little measly $45,175. Okay?
All right, go ahead. Go
Okay.
ahead. Go ahead. I thought, all right.
Okay. Next, I want to just go over briefly my HR budget overview this is just a breakdown from this fiscal year versus last fiscal year. I don't know if you all want me to read the numbers, but it just gives a breakdown. And the total variance for this fiscal year versus last fiscal year is $44,411.
Basically what you're asking for.
What I'm asking for,
All
okay?
right.
And that's all I have, so I'll take any questions that you all have today.
Councilman Hartley?
Yes, Ms. Martin, first of all, thank you and you and your staff for the wonderful job you all
I'm
been
sorry,
doing.
Councilman.
Just said, Ms. Martin, first of all, thank you for the wonderful job you all been doing.
Thank you.
Over at Human Resources.
Thank you.
And hopefully you're enjoying your new place.
Oh, absolutely, we are.
That
We've
should
had a
add-
couple of challenges. We had a couple of challenges, but we've been working through them.
Yes.
And we really enjoy being in our new facility.
Absolutely, and hopefully it helped productivity as well. On your budget overview under debt services, I noticed it went from fiscal year 2023 to 2024 from 11,000 to 55,000. Can you kind of go into a little bit?
Yes,
An explanation.
according to budget, That is because the rent and the lease and the interest for the 633 location did increase. So they put the, that debt service is the interest that we have to pay on that lease. Right. Yes. Yes.
Okay,
That's why
and-
that's why the increase, because we're in a new facility.
And that figure is going to pretty much maintain?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Yeah, we don't touch it. They don't allow us to touch it because actually pay the bills out of it. So, they put the exact money in there that was needed in order to maintain that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any other questions?
I have none.
All right, well, thank you for your $45,000 ask.
Thank you.
And we'll be looking at this, as we get, other information and consult with the administration. All right, Mr. Grizel, did you have anything?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right,
And I'm going to briefly,
oh, yes, that's right.
yeah, go over medical analysis numbers. Now, if you all need, I forgot about Fidelis. They did send it to me. I don't have a copy. But if you all need some more detailed information, we can get Todd, the clinic, to actually set up a meeting. I'm sorry, not set up a meeting, provide a memo to you all in terms of, the information that you may request. But, the clinic has been really doing a great job. As we know, the clinic is very important when it comes to the city of Jackson because they are seeing a lot of our employees, which will help us in terms of claims on our side, having to pay the claims if they actually went to a doctor, okay? So this year, they had $2,640 primary and acute care visits, which is $2 insurance offset per visit.
$2 or 200?
200.
Okay.
200 insurance offset per visit. 417 new visits, which are increasing with the new clinic location. Of course, you all know they was at the Metro Center and they did move to the clinic. If you all have not been there, I would definitely invite you to come. They went from having 1 exam room to 3 exam rooms, a large waiting room, nurses station. So yes, the location has definitely helped in terms of increasing the visits. $2,257 in established visits that include in-house and televisits, 101 firemen and police physicals. So anytime the police, when they have police recruits and fire recruits, they have to have physicals. The clinic is doing all of the physicals for police and fire. 174 TB skin tests and readings for the fire department, 30 flu vaccines, 118 after-hours injury drug screens. Cost savings for TB skin tests and flu vaccines are $9,370. Cost savings for after-hour injury drug screens, $35,400 with a cost savings of $44,770.
That's that 45,000 you need again, ain't it?
Exactly.
Okay,
Isn't
yeah.
that something? Yeah. The work comp visits, of course, we all know that the clinic does service any workers' comp visits. Anytime somebody has an injury on the job, they go to the clinic, and the clinic services those employees as well. 561 in-house drug screens with 26 sent-out drug screens with the medical review officer. 15 new workers' compensation visits with 18 follow-up workers' compensation visits. We impact workers' compensation savings by keeping recordable injuries to a minimum, educating patients on ways to prevent injuries in the future, and focusing care on giving the best treatment so that the patient can return to their jobs. So a general overview of workers' comp claims for 2023-24 showed an average cost of $8,700 per claim. Conservatively, using $3,000 per new work comp injury seen in the clinic with 15 new and 18 return, we estimate the city of Jackson saved an additional $45,000 for work-related injuries treated in the clinic.
All right.
You want to go back?
Go ahead. You can keep going.
Okay. Emergency room alert visits. There is a notable cost savings by treating certain conditions safely in the clinic that otherwise would have to end up in the ER. The average ER visit cost in Mississippi for 2023 was $1,500. using 1,500 ER Avert, there is an additional estimated savings of $18,000 for 23-24.
Yeah. Colleagues, let me ask you this, because I know that this is very, I see she got some more pages left. And I know we haven't gotten this yet, but I know that we're finna get it shortly. But what this does is basically identify our savings.
Yes.
Is there a need for her to continue to go all the way through this presentation or
No, I just would really like to get a copy of
to get a
this.
copy?
Okay.
Same thing? All
I'll
right.
make sure you
All
go
right, so
through it. Okay, thank you.
I
She's gonna
think
bring-
we're good here.
Okay.
Let me ask this question, and let me just state this for the public education as well. We have an active budget that's been presented to this committee, and while we have a quorum, we can suggest or basically, before this gets adopted, it has to be voted out of committee. That's what I'm trying to say. It has to be voted out of committee. And so during this, if we haven't already, we need to make sure that we post the presentation of the budget. Is it posted on every, so we can make live amendments like we did last year? Okay, all right, cool. Let me ask this question. With her presentation and with her savings, surely there's someone where you can identify that 45,000 she needs.
Yeah,
So you already did, so everything's already in here.
yes.
All right, so there's need, and usually when there's a request, there's a need for an amendment.
Yeah, so I just wanted to present what I had requested to make sure that you all knew about the request so that you all
But
could be
that's already
approval with
here.
it. Yeah, it's
So there-
already in here.
There's no need for any amendments or anything in personnel service.
No.
Unless we're gonna cut you.
No, you're not, but you're not, you're
I'm
not,
just
but no,
playing. I'm just
no,
kidding.
it's
Okay.
already in the budget.
All right. So colleagues, are we fine with this as presented?
Mr. Banks,
Yes, sir. Councilman Grisette.
I have a question. Ms. Martin, you mentioned the budget analyst position. I'm not budget analyst, but benefits analyst position or the administrative
Benefits
position.
administrator.
You mentioned wanting to increase that pay.
Yes.
Did you say to what?
So currently, the position is maxed out at $52,000 a year. So I'm asking for an additional $10,000 to take it at least to $62,000.
Okay.
That's maxed.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay. Thank you.
you're welcome.
All right. And again, all that's already proposed. in
Yes.
this- Okay.
It's already in there.
All right. Well, I think we're good with you. You might not need to come back before us. All right.
If I do, just let me know.
Okay, we will. Any other questions, colleagues? All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we have IT. Colleagues, let me ask you this. Do you want to just try to push on through?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. Is IT, is she here? Okay. And I think this will be it. This will conclude for today. Oh, that's right. We got planned development. Okay. Well, we'll see if she can break a record and be quick or, okay. All right. Do we have our handouts already? You got them with you, Dr. Reed? No problem. All right, now we are to the Department of Information Technology, Dr. Muriel Reed. We're in your hands.
All right, great day, great day. I am Dr. Miriam Reed. I'm the Director of Information Technology for the City of Jackson. I'm glad to be here today. Before I start, I would like to point out that the participants from the Mayor's Summer Youth Program actually did the presentation. So this is some of the work that they worked on this summer. My presentation is really short, straight to the point. Throughout the year, we've identified some gaps in how we operate. So because we've identified these, we have a few things that we look to improve over the next year. We've identified gaps in our network connectivity, cybersecurity, IT governance, billing, invoices, audit, and change management. So we will push to improve those areas over the upcoming year. Our focus for 24-25 will be the new website. We've already started pulling data from the old website and moving it over to a new site. So we're very excited about that. Workforce development, we're also trying to include partnerships with Hines, Jackson State, Belhaven to participate in this workforce development. It's still in its infant stages right now, but you'll hear more about it in the next coming year. Connectivity, how we connect citywide, we do need to address that. Fiber is expensive, so we are looking at ways that we can actually afford to continue building on our connectivity citywide. We are also working on enhancing cybersecurity. Our cybersecurity program will start on, I think, next week. And it was already brought before this body and approved. So we'll start that next week. Additional focuses for 24-25 would be our digital transformation, making sure that throughout the whole city that we look at how we operate and implementing more digital processes as opposed to pen and paper. That's very important, and we're working on that as well. We want to strengthen IT governance. This is a new component in IT where we look at every area of IT and see how we can improve our processes. So that's been very exciting, and we've discovered a lot because we now have IT governance and compliance. We're also working on implementing emerging technologies. That is very exciting in itself, and we'll bring some additional information before this body on that as well. Oh, sorry. We do need to improve our project management and delivery. We do have some mechanism that we're putting in place this coming up year to make sure that our projects are implemented and we get what we pay for. Also, coming before this body over the next few months after we talk to HR about updating our job titles, salaries, and our job descriptions. Now, the needs of the area of information technology deal with network redesign, network equipment updates, infrastructure, monitoring, also Wi-Fi. We do need to increase our Wi-Fi capabilities. As I said earlier, rethinking how we connect. We also want some salary increases, new job titles that actually reflect what we do on a day-to-day basis. And it's important for us to look into redundancy. On the screen right now, you see that we have our current network. This is what it looks like. This is not best practices. And I know that the council wants to monetize fiber and things like that.
Your dark fiber, but go ahead.
Yes. we have to look at how we're structured. Now we do have mechanisms in place where we know what we look like and where things are. Don't let it scare you, but this is not best practices, okay?
Let me ask you a question as you get into that, and maybe you can explain it as you do it. Most, some of your municipalities that are tech cities that are doing this, and I don't know if we're going to be able to take advantage of it because of the separation, Madam President, but most of them, as they redo their water infrastructure, they run their dark fiber right along with it, so they won't have to pay the cost of digging twice as they're adding.
Right.
Is there any opportunity of working it out, or is that something we're gonna have to explore on our own right now? Because I know if we had it, when you're replacing pipes, it just makes sense, and most cities are doing it. To while you lay that, you run that dark fiber right beside it, you know.
Well, the way that we're set up, we are aerial and underground, so it really depends on the area.
Okay.
We've also just discovered that we have some compliance issues with how our fiber is laid currently. And we've had conversations with Entergy to try to resolve some of these issues.
We'll
So-
talk about that later.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Okay, so in the future, we want to look more like the bottom right. That is an example of what a redundant network looks like. Ideally, that's where we want to be. If we could get to the top right, that would be great in order for us to start laying a strong foundation, in order for us to build so we can monetize. But right now, we're just not there. This is what, let me go back. On the bottom right-hand side, that's what I'm getting ready to show you what it looks like in a live environment. So this is what we should look like. And we're not there.
Mm.
Yeah, we're gonna let that sink in for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much my presentation. As far as the acts, we are going to work diligently with Ice Miller and also our grants division and think outside the box when in regards to technology, because there is a lot of funding out here and we want to aggressively go after that funding. And that's my presentation.
All right, so question, I see a lot of I see your needs.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess either Sharon or Fidelis, one of the things to be important to pop out, because I guess we'll never, to point out, we never know how the departments are coming, on if their requests or needs are already budgeted or if they're additional requests. Are your needs and requests in this already budgeted? They're not.
No.
All right, so when can you get us the hard numbers on your needs?
I can send them to you in a few moments.
In a few moments? All right.
Do I send them to Ms.
Send
Shaniki?
them to the clerk so that we can all get them. And that would be basically this one right here.
Yes.
All right. So yeah, all we would need is like where it says network redesign, how much is that? So that we can know that your total need equals blah, blah, blah.
It's about 1.2
About
million
1.2 million
for us to get started, yes.
for you. Is there a phase plan that, so if you could do that, if you could send us that, and then even possibly a phase plan, because I know the networking or the part that deals with getting to this final goal with the data center, everything that you're trying to do, it might be hard to do in our fiscal year, in one
Correct.
fiscal year. But if you can get us those numbers on a phase plan and then prioritize it kind of as we've been asking, then that because right now we see this is good, but as far as budgetary and being able to start considering making a decision, we just need to know how much we're working with. Yes, sir, Mr. Mellenbeck.
Yes, I do want to point out, Dr. Reed, actually, there are some requests that are accommodated in the budget. I think part of personal services, I'm looking at Brandon. I think there are some accommodations that were made, is that correct? Based on your summary,
So whatever accommodations have been made that are in here based on these, I mean, we see, but we don't know anything if there are no numbers. So if we can get that, then we'll kind of know where we are. You sent it to Shanika? Well, yeah, I mean, in lieu of sending it to our clerk, make sure you coordinate with Dr. Reed to make sure that it all makes sense. And then, because before we could give any input, we need to see the numbers. And so are there any questions? Councilman Hartley?
Yeah, Dr. Reed, I know that you guys had gone through some type of transitional move with publications. How is that coming along? Are they back online or,
Yes, they are back online.
okay, and you have sufficient personnel over there?
Yes.
Okay, and equipment, or is that going to be a part of any needs here?
No, no. What they have is what they'll continue to work with. I think the only thing that we may need is a web CRD upgrade, but we're looking into that right now.
Okay, I'm sorry, CRD.
That's how you order any publications, materials, and services, things like that. You order it through web CRD.
Okay, is that software?
Yes, it's a software.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
So, go ahead. You had another question?
No, just if that was all with publications, everything else is fine.
Yes, all of our equipment is moved. It's in a new location. Publications, they're up and running now.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so as far as what is already budgeted in your general fund, I'm guessing that's in your personnel service, it's an increase of about 100 grand? Am I, no, a little bit over that. It's a increase
Okay,
from
so,
from 2 million to 2.9? Is that what Mr. Mellenbecker is referencing?
so I broke it down. It's on the way. It's coming to you.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Yes, so I broke it down. The feasibility study, its average cost is $200K. Salary increases of 20%, that's $415K. Building repairs, we're asking for $800 more. Professional services, $150K. Fiber maintenance, $188K. Computer software, $255K, and vehicle maintenance, an additional $375, and that's about 1.2 million.
Okay, and, okay, so I see the reflection of your salary increase already in budget. If I'm looking at this right, based on information technology, I guess this is page 2 of this sheet. I guess what's in the book, I see the revised budget, personnel service 2.5 million, and then your proposal is 2.9. So that picks up, her salary increase is already in here, from what I see.
yeah, so and I don't know if it's all of them. We just have to verify what all is included. But yeah, that's why I was saying there is some accommodation in the budget, but I think we just have to go through the list that Dr. Reed has.
And then you'll clarify that
Yeah.
and get that to our clerk. All right.
Yes.
And then the feasibility study, I assume this is the feasibility for the complete data center that we're talking about.
Right.
All right. And I'm sure there's more to come with that, that we'll have a multi-year phase.
Yes.
Colleagues, do we want to go ahead and see that multi-year phase plan?
Right now.
And not now today. I'm talking about for her to prepare that for us to see. No, for her to prepare that for us to see throughout this process so that we can know with us doing phase 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 looks like that. All right. Any questions? Yes, sir, Councilman
Yeah,
Hartley.
and looking at this budget request, what, are they in the priorities that you like to seek?
Yeah.
The feasibility study would be a priority. Also, we do need salary increases because we are extremely low when you're talking about salaries. So that would be number 2. And our professional services, diving into broadband and smart city initiatives, we would rely on people that have expertise in that area.
So those are the top 3.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And if there was anything in your request that you could give up to help make some of your other dreams come true, what would it be?
That I would give up.
Yeah. I've been asking everybody this question.
We need every penny to improve technology citywide.
Okay. All right. And your vehicle maintenance, is that necessary?
Yes.
I mean, I'm just saying and one of the reasons why Mr. Hardy, why we asked the priorities, let's say we find ourselves in a place where there's a lack, like you lined out your 1, 2, and 3.
Yes.
So that means if there was something that you had to do without to help make 1, 2, and 3 happen, what would that be?
I can't point anything out because we really need it all.
You want it all.
Yes, sir.
So that means you're gonna leave it up to us to choose if we had to?
Yes.
Okay. All right. What do we have? Mr. Grizel, did you have anything? He still? All right. All right. All right. Any other questions, colleagues? All right. Well, with that being said, thank you so much. If you would, you gave us, if there's anything else additional, just please provide it to the clerk.
I will.
And that phase plan and everything, and then we'll go from there. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Is planning and development ready? Our colleagues, do we want to? It's 11:30 now. We want to recess or try to push right through?
I'd love to push through.
I would love to push through too. I see Mr. Keaton out there. I guess the question is, how long is his presentation?
Yes.
It's a long one? Okay. Good morning. Okay. If you could, give you a brief, but the important stuff, let's just, look, unless there's an objection, let's get to the numbers.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Check your text, check your phone.
Ready, Councilman?
Yes, sir. We're in your hands.
Well, good morning to the council and Mr. Fidelis. My name is Jai Keaton, and I'm the Director of Planning and Development. It is a pleasure to be here before you today. I would like to start by just really shouting out my team. Recently I was confirmed in this role, but, over the last year or so, it's really been the team that did a whole lot of this work. So in honor of them, we will mention, I know I sent y'all a longer slide, a PowerPoint. We're not gonna go through that whole PowerPoint, but I will like to talk about the highlights in this document. This second document that you have, this is the one I will speak from and present from, so we'll move to that one next. Then this third document is detailed financials. So if we need to reference this, then we will. So considering JTran, the highlights for 2023-24 was the new JTran fixed route system went live on March of 24. JTran received over $13 million in bus and bus facility discretionary funds. And JTran completed the installation of 696 new bus stop signs in 2024. Office of Housing and Community Development with the home grant, they were able to construct 5 new properties and rehab one that totaled a cost of $1 million, and that was in partnership with the Habitat for Humanity. And through the Gulf Coast Housing Partnership, they was able to develop 27 units, 4 units paid with home dollars at an estimated cost of $850,000. Community Development began the process for a Fair Street area comprehensive rezoning, and a continued collaborative enforcement on hotels and problem sites with Police, Fire, and Planning Division. Highlights for code services include Community Improvement launched a web page with before and after demo pictures. We know we hear a lot of times from citizens about what's happening, what's not happening. So Samantha was put together a nice website for people to reference. The total construction value to date is $965,000. That created, that's backwards, the total value was $960. Then we collected $1.2 million from Community Improvement. So Cedar performed demos. We did 47 demos, generated $8,500 through the cleanup assessment plan. And we generated, or saved the city approximately $160,000 from owner-resolved cases. Our rental registration revenues year-to-date was $223,000. Economic Development won a national competition for the National Folk Festival that'll be held in the city of Jackson starting November 2025 for 3 years. We received 825 new business license applications and 2,600 renewal business applications. We established an MOU with Hinds County Economic Development to address the city's industrial parks. And we hosted a site visit with the National League of Cities, Kellogg Foundation, and the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta as a part of our commitment to the Southern Cities Economic Inclusion Initiative. So then I would like to go to this document. So those are the highlights of the department. Revenue projections. So our existing revenues from permits and fees remain the primary source of revenue for the city of Jackson. We projected revenue is $1.3 million. This estimate includes revenues from each of the 5 divisions. New revenues that we're looking to generate from sources are projected to be about $215,000. It will be more than that, but we have estimates for medical marijuana permits and for real estate leases. We can't predict what we will make from selling surplus property, but we begin to engage in lease agreements with certain organizations so we could predict that cash flows. When you see the TBDs, those are from the state, Mississippi reimbursing us for cleaning up properties, state-owned properties. We cannot determine how much that'll be, but those are conversations that we will begin to have, as well as citywide advertising via JTran. Again, we are constructing an ordinance for the parameters for advertising. We don't have an idea at this point how much revenue that'll generate, but these are things that we're actively working on to get that information. And the same for environmental court fees. We know in the administrative court, there's a $500 fee that the city receives. We're trying to explore, could we also apply that same fee via environmental court? So we don't have those figures yet, but we're working on getting those numbers. From state and federal grants, our Housing and Community Development Department and JTran receive a lot of federal dollars. So that total allocation is $14.8 million. Housing and Community Development gets $4.4 million, and JTran gets about $10.4 million every year. When we look at expense allocations, specifically with code enforcement is where we spend the most money. Funding for code enforcement includes demos, weed and cut, asbestos mitigation, and court costs. It's allocated at $337,500 annually. On average, a demo case will cost about $7,000. So based on a $237,000 allocation, we're only able to do plus or minus 30 demo cases a year. With the backlog of over 800 cases, we would like to make an additional budget request of $162,000 to increase the number of demolitions from 30 to 55. This consideration will ensure the continued safety and security of residents.
Just
Go ahead.
real quick, right on that. And when we talk about your average demolition being around $7,000 to $8,000, in most cases, we're talking about residential demolition.
That's correct.
But when we talk about stuff like Casa Grande, which was already done, but then South Down Arms and other abandoned commercial properties, I would like to see a goal or estimate on what we could budget to start looking at commercial demolition.
Gotcha.
All right, I think that's smart. I think as we're talking about, what's that, Oyo Hotel, and some of the others, yeah, and some of the other abandoned.
Because that one alone is 215.
That's 250.
Yeah.
I think that we have to, Sharon, create a new budget line in this department for commercial demolition, because it doesn't give us a realistic picture of helping the city. Because all we've traditionally done is look at residential and then depend on something from somewhere else to do commercial. And if we did a South Down Arms, or if we did an old apartment complex within this budget, then that's it. And so I think that we have to look at that and we have to fund it. All right. And so I think that's an ask from this council. The other thing, one of the council members, I don't know if it was you or Foot, had a question about the blight elimination program monies.
It was Mr. Foot, I believe, but he was asking how much is still left in that fund.
Yeah.
And I guess I dovetailed and asked if those had originated as state dollars.
From what I was told, because that triggered everything in our department to get that number at council, it was less than $40,000. It's pretty much depleted, from what I'm being told.
All right. And that was Mississippi Home Corp, right?
That's correct.
All right. Go ahead, Mr. Miller. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Hardy, did you add something before that?
I'll defer.
Okay.
Yes, and I did talk to Councilman Foot about it after I got information from planning. So the amount that was budgeted, essentially, that amount was going to the Blight Partners, and there was about $300,000 that was unencumbered. The rest of the funds were encumbered for contracts with those Blight Partners. And from what I could tell, the $300,000 that was unencumbered was still budgeted for Habitat for Humanities, but not the entire amount. I think it was like 700 and something thousand. A portion of it was encumbered and 300,000 was unencumbered. So the question that preceded that from Councilman Foot was if we could talk to the partners and one, understand the projects they're undertaking, but also could we make a request? So for instance, with Hotel O, could we request from one of those partners if they could do the demolition? And I know your team, I think, was going back to research that question. Yeah.
We have not gotten any new information yet, but we're looking into it.
And colleagues, I think this is a request. If we could get the breakdown of that 1.9, the breakdown, how it was spent, where it went, all that other kind of stuff, that would be helpful. But then again, and I just want to push on this while we're here. Colleagues, are we in agreement that we want to see a line item for demolition of abandoned commercial properties?
Mr. Banks, I have been interested in seeing that for some time, so I'm glad you're officially asking for it. Often what people see and what affects a community the most is along the commercial corridors. These commercial corridors get solved, it just bleeds into the community. And so I think that does need to be a priority if at all possible.
Agreed.
Councilman Hartley?
Yes. First of all, coming from a ward where we have tremendous problem, this this budget is woefully insufficient. We, whatever it takes, we need to go ahead and beef this up quite a bit. The state is making some moves with the blight elimination program, and they'll have a subcommittee meeting later on this month. Councilman Foote and I is a part of that. So we will be requesting funding, or at least acknowledging the condition of our blight elimination program. If you have any inputs, I'd like to get that as well. But I really believe that one of our keys is going to be pursuing grants and other opportunities. Right now, are there any grant, and Mr. Mellebeck, maybe you can help with this, is our grant division currently looking at anything for demolition or blighted properties?
So I did ask them, just from hearing from you over time, right, that that should be one of the priorities in terms of seeking funding, is for blight elimination. Part of it, and they have to have a conversation with the planning, because some of it can be done through CDBG. And so as we put together our priorities for CDBG funding, that could be an area to look at. Right?
And we did use some funds for CDBG this year, and of course, was it District 71, Representative Crudup also got us about $250,000. So we community partners are pitching in. We're trying to do what we can with CDBG. But I agree 100% with what y'all are saying. We definitely need more money for code enforcement. That was the next ask, is actually code enforcement officers. But to do residential demos, and more specifically commercial demos, is definitely something we all agree to. So we'll do what we can to get those numbers to y'all.
All right. Yes, Councilman Harley?
Yeah, and since you brought it up, the code enforcement officers, how many code enforcement officers do we have within planning?
So for community improvement
No, just total.
total, we got 12.
We have total of 12 code enforcement officers for the city.
Yes.
And within community improvement that deals with dilapidated properties, overgrown lots, trash, and all those other cars parked, how many out of those 12 are dedicated to those things?
So 7. And those are 7 positions. So we probably got 2 or 3 openings. So 3 or 4 active.
So right now, we have maybe 3 active people.
That's correct.
Dedicated around the city for abandoned properties and the whole.
That's correct.
Okay. Let me ask you this question while I'm there. And you may or may not have an answer for this, but is there any consideration to cross-training some of those other ones to allow more people to be out there? Like right now, there's a dumpster program that's being, for businesses. I get a lot of business that, hey, they're gonna make me do this, and this. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But a lot of the problems we're dealing with comes with the abandoned properties, overgrown lots, things of that nature, and it's killing our streets. So my question is, could we in fact cross-train or make the training available so we can free up, so we can have more code enforcement officers that dedicated specifically to the things that people are complaining about the most?
Absolutely. So it's actually the strategic initiatives. We talk about that in the next section. But what we realized as we was going through doing this exercise, going through this process, it was refreshing to find out that each of my deputies, we all agreed that the code enforcement officers should be cross-trained. It just makes more sense. Since we don't have enough of them, everybody, when they go out to a property, should be able to inspect that property for whatever we need, right? So that conversation is definitely taking place. What's most important is how do we go about being efficient in making sure that everyone is trained, right? And there not being any loops or cracks that, things fall through the cracks when you try to do a little bit too much. But we looked at the fact that if we got, 7, so 12 code enforcement officers, but each division has 5 or 6 of them. When we put everybody together, you get a bigger number. So that is definitely a conversation that we're having, and we're looking into it and trying to figure out how to not just do it, but how to do it effectively. Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Hold on before you go. And I think the way to do it effectively is to fund it, because you can't do it if
With
you
no
don't
money.
fund it. So, I want to do this because oftentimes when we get this, I think when the council is speaking, it is important for us to take a straw poll to send a message to the administration where we want significant investment. I would ask colleagues, all by way of a straw poll, all those that are in agreement with, and I'm not going to give a number, I'm just going to say significant investment into code enforcement officers and creating the line item for commercial demolition. If you would just raise your hand, I say aye.
Aye.
All right, so out of a 6-member body, I think the administration, I think we need to find that money to make it happen. Councilman Hart, I guess I'm trying to remember how we used Grand Gulf. Councilman Hart and Councilman Grizel, I'm trying to remember how we used Grand Gulf, but I'm sure that in that area there are some commercial properties that may need to be addressed and some things that need to be addressed as far as cleanup is concerned. So,
Mr. Banks,
yes, go ahead, Councilman Grizel.
the only thing I can remember from Grand Gulf was to help pay for the lighting project from TV Road down to Spring Ridge. But I do agree with the idea of taking some of that funds and tearing down some of those dilapidated properties along that evacuation route.
Councilman Hart, what's your thoughts?
Yes, I agree as well. Again, I've been for several years now, I've been pushing to have those funds used for cleanup in any kind of way along that Highway 18 route and Highway 80 route. So yeah, anything we can do to improve that area, that escape route. I think we need to go ahead and do that. And it also, hopefully, if we can tear down some properties and beautify, it will also allow some hotels perhaps to come in and look at that as being a destination, service stations and other things. That's again, the original intent of that Grand Gulf funding. So yes, totally agree. No need for it just hanging around. Let's go ahead and use it.
Agreed.
Put it to
And
use
from our numbers, that asks, so, and this is on the 3rd page of this document, specifically talks about current code enforcement staff and the ask. So we're asking for 12 additional code enforcement officers. That salary would total that salary would total 500,000. We would need 6 more vehicles. That vehicle cost will be 130,000. So all in all, 700K is pretty much the ask to beef up code enforcement officers and give them the tools they need to do their jobs.
Let me ask you this question, because we've had discussions in the past concerning code enforcement officers using some of the rental registration money and other things. But now we're down to 3. What are folks quitting, or what is?
We're not paying enough.
We're not paying enough.
Yeah, we're not
Okay,
paying
so
enough.
that needs to be a consideration, is
Absolutely.
salaries.
So that was the conversation that we was thinking about. Do we ask for 12 more officers at the same salary range, which we do need those bodies, but if we didn't ask for 12, we asked for 7 and kind of gave better salaries.
I think this body is telling you to tell us what you need to make it work.
Heard that.
Isn't that what you're saying, Councilman Marley? What you need to make it work?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. We can't keep bleeding these officers, okay? And I thought we were going to get money from the rental registration in order to fund these code enforcement officers. But if we can't keep them, where's that money going? And now you're going to ask for more money
Yeah.
for more code officers.
So let's talk about rental registration.
Okay?
Hold on
Okay.
before you go right there. So on the line for commercial demo, in creation of that line, if someone in your department could be tasked with doing a research on what would be a sufficient amount.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's what we need to know. On the top of my head, I'm thinking 1.5 million and upwards when you talk about commercial properties in order to make it sufficient. But if someone can do the research for that. The other thing, and I don't know if anybody from legal is on, but colleagues, I think that we have to now start doing the legal research by ordinance to give code enforcement officers citation authority. I ain't talking about put something on the door and the court notice and they going, I'm talking about citation authority. And I know that cities are doing it. And I think if we had citation authority, they park a car on the grass, they break something, you know, I mean, they do something that's illegal, that's against the law, then that code enforcement officer has the ability to write that citation, and they either pay the citation or show up to court to try to fight. So if we could do the legal homework on citation authority for code enforcement officers for those ordinances, and if not, then we need to find a way to expand the ticket registries or citations on the tickets of JPD officers, and they need to know that they're supposed to enforce all laws in the city of Jackson and not just the other ones. All right.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah, Mr.
Thank you. So, yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. President, I also agree with that. I thought we had someone from legal up on the overhead, but if we could make that, direct that to the administration to check into, because we woefully need to go ahead and write tickets or whatever it takes to get some immediate results and show folks we're serious about this.
Yeah, agreed.
Thank you, Mr. Wright.
All right. So you were moving on to,
Yeah, rental registration.
Rental
I just,
registration.
because I know that that's a,
Yep.
it's a big topic. So on the second page of this document, we wrote out the financials. And I don't necessarily know if anybody ever ran the financials for rental registration, but if the anticipated projected revenues was $1 million, and this is the original agreement. The per unit fee is $50, assuming that we have 20,000 units that need to be inspected in the city of Jackson. One code enforcement officer can do 1,000 inspections a year. And the proposed number of code enforcement officers originally was 20 at $41,000 a year. That totaled the cost of doing inspections for the year was $834,000. I'm sorry, $1.2 million. That's including vehicles and code enforcement officers. Just at the core of it, we're functioning at a $250,000+ deficit. That's assuming that we inspect 100% of the units. The legal case now says that because we don't inspect 100% of the units, that we're operating in what they call a impermissible tax, right? So we should not realize an excess of surplus or profit. Now, the gray area is, what is excess, right? Is that 100%? Is 57? So I think that that's legal right now, them defining that, determining that. But by default, if we did inspect 100% of the unit, we're not making any, we're losing $260,000 in rental registration. So this year alone, outside of, when you look at the second side of the slides, when you consider exemptions, we lose $250,000 a year just because we give exemptions to Mississippi Home Corps for their rental properties. And the hazard with that is they only conduct inspections every 3 years. And we're waiting for the numbers to prove that they actually conduct the inspections, which kind of defeats the purpose of our program by us doing annual inspections. So we're giving up $250,000 out the gate in exceptions. But, when you add in the same numbers that we just ran, including the $223,000 that we did bring in this year, we're still operating a $200,000 deficit. So I really think that the whole concept of rental registration, I think the gray area in this that would change these numbers is, what is the soft spot with the judge that says that it is not an excessive amount? How many units can we charge for without inspecting, right, to realize whatever promises that was made behind what money rental registration is going to generate?
I guess this would be the question in finding that soft spot. And I don't know if we're at a place where, with whoever the plaintiffs are, to have conversation or some type of legal negotiation to say, okay, what does this look like going forward for us to work together, and to kind of come up on terms of settlement. I guess that's what would be. It seems like year one, it was reported $1 million or so in revenue, and then we start investing to have more and to pay more. And we invested more and then lost more is what it looks like to me. And so maybe we scale back. Maybe we scale this back with the positions that are budgeted for. We scale it back to a place of where it was in its infancy and take that money and put it toward the code enforcement. Go ahead, Council.
Well, Mr. Banks, I think we need to get an update from legal on this before, I mean, we're just not real sure
Yeah.
how this is going to work in the courts. And until we know that, I don't know what the answer is. But I would like to get an update from legal.
I agree, but given context to what you just said, the issue is either we do less inspections, either we charge less or we do more inspections. To cut back will only exacerbate the problem. The problem is we're charging people, but we're not performing inspections. So we do need inspections. So this is what the impermissible tax says. If we're charging $50 a unit, you got a 100-unit apartment complex. So that's $500,000. But we're only inspecting 10 of those units. So the judge says that we're technically charging $50,000 per unit if we're only inspecting 10 units. So if we only got 3 inspectors, right, it's very difficult for them to inspect 20,000 units.
So basically the judge is saying that we have to do the work.
Absolutely, got to close the gap. So that's why when this was drafted, it was drafted with the anticipation we're going to have 20 code enforcement officers just for rental registration. We don't have 20 in the entire department. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it was bad from the beginning. Yeah.
You wanted to say something, Sharon?
Yeah.
The only way forward to perform is we have to be at maximum capacity.
Yeah,
All
and
the
it's
way
still
across the
not
board.
going to generate like a huge revenue. And it's almost the way the judge saying that's why he called it an impermissible tax, because governments are not in the business of making money. Like, you know, you can't just profit off of taxing people.
All right.
Fees.
All right, this part of the conversation, Madam President, I would like to table this during one of our deliberations or one of these makeup meetings, have a holistic conversation with the administration, this department, and legal. All right. Grizel, did you have anything on that?
I don't have anything right now, but I do want to discuss more about the rental registration program.
Okay.
And let me
Alright.
say this. I do think that
I think it's important to not only have it, but it needs to be successful because we have so many renters in this city. And we need to know where those locations are and try our best to regulate those as best as possible, especially with the fact that we have so many, landlords who live elsewhere. So whatever we need to do to reel it in, even if we just have to charge per unit that we actually do go in and inspect, whatever the case may be, I think we need to do what we got to do to fix this so that we can, help, better manage our neighborhoods.
I agree, Councilman Grizel. What I would say is I think pending the judge's outcome or whatever, his opinion, there's going to be a soft spot in whatever he's saying is excess. We need to know what that is. You see what I'm saying? And once we can figure out what that is, then we work the numbers based off of that number. If it's 50% or 75% or whatever it is. And then if we look at the long-term value of the program, because we're including salaries, which never will change, but also cost of vehicles. So that would save money over time once you buy the vehicles, right? So I do think that and it's more valuable even talking about the money, more so to the safety and welfare of the citizens, to Grizel's point, right? We do have Councilman Grizel, I'm sorry. We do have a lot of, absentee landlords and people that's living in subpar conditions, and we need to keep that at the forefront of the whole purpose of rental registration, is to make sure that our citizens are taken care of.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, we'll get with the clerk and we'll set something up to deal with that. And I think it's important that legal is here so that we can get that information. All right. You can continue with where you're
Onward. So
I'm sorry, Mr. Mel. My apologies, Mr. Mellenbeck.
No, I just wanted to offer, there was a question asked, I think Councilwoman Lindsay said she wanted to see, and I think Councilman Banks, you mentioned breakdown of the blight elimination program with the partners. If you look at your budget book, page 262, page 262 actually shows you who those blight partners are. When you look at the actuals, you won't see much expenses there. And this budget book does not include the encumbrances. I think the encumbrances will be able to show you the commitments, but at least there's an outline there for who those partners are, right? And how much is budgeted for each one.
Okay, that's fine, but if, it just still give it to us, in a, you know, in a format with those encumbrances and everything.
Yeah.
100%, everything we need to see and know.
Okay.
All right. Yes, sir.
Ready?
Yeah.
So still following back on this sheet, looking at economic development related projects, of course, during my confirmation, you know, I highlighted the fact that code enforcement and community improvement was absolutely important, but equally as important as us figuring out how to make money. And in order to make money as a city, we got to invest in economic development. So before you have economic development initiatives aiming at attracting business and fostering local growth, we totaled about 500,000 in projects. These are asks, and I did put them in order of priority and, you know, kind of hope you consider it. So we had a meeting with Mississippi Main Street, JRA, Downtown Partners, Entergy. That's for a 10-year engagement, is $50,000 commitment. Of course, we could try to leverage that to get, you know, people to put in on that $50,000, but I do think that it'd be important for the city to lead that effort. So I'm making a $50,000 ask for Mississippi Main Street project. The Convention Center Hotel feasibility study, that is still a project that we're working on, and we need to firm up the numbers. The last feasibility study that we had was in 2017. Of course, market conditions has changed gravely since then. And we need to be able to firm up those numbers and add and have that as a value add to whichever developer comes. It'll save them money, and it'll help us to know what is our ask, what can we really do on this site. Our Northwest Industrial Parks. So site certification is something pretty much that is the first step towards site development. And when we talk about the big boys and you know, attracting the Amazons and the Continental Tires, the name of the game is site development. We will never attract any major industry if our industrial parks are not prepared for development, right? So this Entergy certified site program, they do all the geo studies. We'll have to get with engineers to do it, but they lead the charge on us getting all the environmentals, geo studies, feasibilities done so that by the time a company comes, they're already aware of what position and what condition the sites are in, soil samples, so that they can know what size buildings they could build on them. You know, so also when it comes to utility capacity, you need water utilities. We need more resiliency when it comes to electricity, right? So those things need to be prepared. So we got a quote from Entergy that's around $150,000 to do. That's a one-time fee. You would kind of need to move on it. So every 4 or 5 years, you know, it gets outdated. So in conjunction with this, we have a relationship with Hinds County Economic Development. We just had a meeting with Glenn McCullough, who is their new consultant 2 days ago. And what we want to do is leverage this for them to go to MDA to get monies for site development. So that's something the governor been championing for the last 2 or 3 years about how much money has been invested in site development. None of that really is coming to the city of Jackson.
So let me ask you this. In this, are we looking at maybe one industrial park? Are we looking at all industrial?
Northwest Industrial Park, to me, is the one that is best positioned. Now, when you look at Hawkins Field is doing well.
You know, I'm going to argue, and Councilwoman Lindsay going to join me, I-55 Frontage Road Industrial Park area.
I mean, that's light industrial though. But I like
Okay,
55.
okay,
But we
okay.
talking about economic base. But I'm saying no, that's a track. We'll look at that too.
Okay.
But to me, light industrial versus heavy industrial, you start talking about the tax base and property taxes is two different conversations.
Okay.
But I will consider that though. Absolutely. I-55. I got you, Banks.
I'm sorry, Councilwoman Lindsay.
No, go ahead. I'll let him finish, and then I have a question, Mr. Banks. Sorry.
So the next one is what I call Promote Jackson, and that's, you know, internal tourism. Visit Jackson does external tourism. They do a good job at external tourism. But who promotes Jackson to Jacksonians, right? Who puts up the banners? Who makes it attractive when we have regional events that go on at the convention center? No one knows about it. And I think that that's a detriment to the city when we have regional events and people coming into the city and no one is championing them, no one is welcoming them. So I do think that the city could play a role at promoting city assets to citizens and to the region, but specifically to Jacksonians. So there's an ask for that. Business recruitment. So in the form of familiarization tours, again, we're beginning to see a slow decline in investment from local business people, local developers and capital people, money people. I do think that it's value add to bring people from outside of the city of Jackson into the city and show them our assets, show them what we have, you know, to attract investment and be very proactive at modeling our city because they're not tainted by whatever the political position is, the relationship between the city and state, or the historical reference of the city. So I think it's very value add for us to go out, go about the United States, the world at large, and find people who are interested in investing in markets and demographics such as the city of Jackson. So there's a line item for that. And then the economic development strategic plan, again, we just need to understand and have a better position overall of where are we as a city, what are our assets, what can we invest in, what are we good at, right, and what are we bad at. So I think that having an economic development strategic plan will be value add as well. So the total ask is $500,000. I know y'all probably not gonna get it to me, but I did put it in order. So if you are to consider anything, these are
Let's
in
show
order.
1, 2, 3, 4. You've been watching these budget hearings? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
I have, yeah. But wishful thinking, right?
Yeah.
Councilwoman, did you have a question?
Look, go ahead. You want to go with your question? Yeah.
I'm sorry, I forgot to turn on my mic. I wanted to ask you about the notion of creating a revolving loan fund, which I think the mayor brought up, and we had a little huddle about it in between sessions. How do you see a revolving loan fund helping you with economic development?
Well, it depends. So I think it's important to note that it's different levels of economic development. So I guess the question will be what we're trying to accomplish.
Yes.
Right.
Well, and I think we have to acknowledge that unlike other cities, we would be starting small
Yeah.
with the notion of as people repay the funds, they would pay a tiny bit of interest and we could also add to it as time permits over time. And we could grow it where it maybe at some point in time would be
Yeah.
enough to really be influential.
Yeah. So I would say we need all cylinders firing. So I mean, if that's the direction that the administration go in, I'll be more than happy to support that and drive it. So you got industrial development, it wouldn't play a role at all in that. When you start looking at commercial retail, it depends on what level of business are you talking about. Are we talking about small businesses? If you're talking about small businesses, we need to make sure we structure the program so that they qualify, right? But you're also talking about getting your money back. It's going to take you longer to make your money back because small businesses don't generate profits as quickly. If you're talking about big boxes, how do we attract or retain a Target or a Walmart? You know, the larger retail boxes. To me, I think that that's where I would want to focus it. But those level of businesses are looking for grants and free money. They don't necessarily need a loan because they're well capitalized to get a loan if they want to get a loan. So I think now we're just really starting to talk about small business. And if we can figure out how to, if we can figure out how to use the money to stimulate businesses moving into Jackson, right? So, you know, your rent will be, we could pay up rent for, you know, the first year, 6 months. Or, you know, we can help with build out of space. A lot of people need monies for operations, right? So I think that in that realm, it would be most value add, but again, it's a slow game.
Yeah, I think we can make it a quick game though, and in our conversation, and I just ask everybody to participate. You know, it's what time now? 11 something. If you look up there at that screen, what's the first thing that's gonna pop out to everybody right now?
Pizza Hut.
Pizza Hut. When people come to Jackson, you know what they looking to do?
Eat.
They're looking to eat. And so if we talk about this revolving loan, we talk about food courts in various areas. We talked about earlier food court at the zoo. You talk about food court somewhere, but you talk about using restaurants that are local, that are already established, that may, like if you had a food court in South Jackson with a Little Johnny T's, you know, a Little Manship or something like that, but it's outside courtyard, that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and those type of businesses that are already lucrative. I think we want to think about it from your small up. And so, you know, I would like to think that if we started doing some type of investment like that, that it could help out. And I don't think, Councilwoman Liz, you're talking about big boxes.
Well, what I'm hearing him say is something in a little different direction. You're saying that maybe coupled with the revolving loan fund, which we know will not have big impact, but it could maybe help. It might help pay for somebody's sign.
Absolutely.
But what you're also saying is that we need to figure out a way to secure free money, like the facade grant program, and things of that nature.
So, yeah, absolutely. So let's just give a quick example. So I was researching a redevelopment in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where they took an old baseball stadium and turned it to an apartment complex. $14 million development. They used the bank gave them $3.5 million in debt, but the city brought $3.5 million, right, to get the deal done. They did maybe like another $2 or $3 million in equity.
It's real money.
Yeah, real money. That's
It's
but
real
that's
money.
business though. That's what I'm saying. So for us to, we're not really having a real conversation about economic development if we're not talking about money. It's just we're just practicing. You see what I'm saying? So I would love for the city to figure out how to have some money set aside so we can leverage it. It's not saying that we got to put cash in every deal, but nobody takes you serious when you're at the table having a multi-million-dollar conversation and you don't have no money. It just don't work like that. So, I mean, we got to really just be serious about what we're trying to do.
I think we hear you, Mr. Keaton.
Thank you. Moving on. I
Oh,
got two
yeah.
more. All right, cool. So, the next item this is us getting creative with this next one. So, restructuring HUD, our HUD 108 debt service, to do other activities in the city of Jackson. So, we was having a conversation with HUD about trying to figure out how to get creative with supporting the National Folk Festival and the libraries in Jackson, right? We know that's a big issue. It was brought to our attention that if we did do the things that we said we was gonna do with the money, special economic development projects, investing in Jackson Hines Library System and the National Folk Festival, that HUD would allow us to use our CDBG funds to pay the debt service that would then free up that money from the general fund and make it unrestricted so we can then do these three activities. So it'll be $200,000 for each special economic development projects. The Hines County Library System will get $200,000 a year for 5 years, and we'll be able to fund the National Folk Festival. So that then would look like a $3 million investment over a 5-year period for the city of Jackson in economic development. So that is a decision that, you know, the council and the administration will have to make, but definitely wanted to bring that to you all because we need it. So, yeah, that's that one. And the last two projects are active projects. So you talk about the Fair Street Lawn Project. This is across the street from the convention center. We want to propose to use $1.5 million in ARPA funds to develop an outdoor event space on the block adjacent to the Jackson Convention Center complex between Fairs, Pearl Roach, and Pascagoula Streets. This concept is modeled after the Lawn on D in Boston, which is directly across the street from their convention center. Same scenario, derelict property across the street from the convention center.
Do you have a rendering?
Yeah. Can I? So.
I know, I just wanted to put it on the screen for, yeah.
No, I got a video. Kind of better.
You got a video? How long was the video?
A minute.
You can pull it up here shortly? Is the sound gonna work? Everything good?
I don't know what you got on your computer. Okay, I'm just saying.
Y'all wanna see the video? Or just see it later? Okay.
Okay, fair
All right,
enough. Yeah.
right.
Sorry, we tried it. So
Mr. Banks, if he could just email that to us, we can look at it at our own leisure.
Yep, that'd
Gotcha.
be great.
So the concept modeled after Lionel D in Boston, the Fair Street Lawn Project would generate revenues from naming rights, private rentals, and food and beverage sales. This space will be managed by the Jackson Convention Center complex. Yeah, I mean, it's really outdoor event space, y'all. Like, and it's not a green space. It's not walking trails. It is an activated space that we can have events. The other plan, 'cause I guess I should say, my short-term plan for the convention center parking lot, we know hotel, parking garage. In the short term, we just got a quote. Well, JRA got the quote to flatten that parking lot out as is will be about $4.5 million. We thought it was gonna be $2 million, but I think we can get it between $2 and $3 million. Then you got the block that I'm telling y'all about. Want to do the outdoor event space. The block between Roach and Mill Street, we want to do skate park on the front. They already doing it. You know, just skate park on one side and then vendor park on the other side. So food trucks, small business incubator type of individual units. And that, again, that is not the highest and best use of that land, but that is something that we can do, I don't want to say cheap, but it doesn't cost $100 million either, right? While we create value, because we have to create value in order to attract capital for the hotel and parking garage. So this is us making a move and doing something. Let's get something done. So that's my position for that ask. The last item is a small business incubator. So this is pretty much done, but we purpose to renovate the Central Fire Station building in order to satisfy a final deliverable for the W.K. Kellogg Pathways to Human Dignity Grant. The Creative Station Business Incubator is projected to generate about $50,000 annually from small business office and event rental space. So we have the money in the budget for Kellogg to renovate the Central Fire Station and do what was being proposed to do in Union Station right across the street. So that's pretty much the conclusion of my budget.
All right. College, is it our feeling that we have enough to work with based on this presentation, other than the amount of money for that line item we asked?
Yeah, Mr. Banks, I think we need to probably bring this department back during budget deliberations.
I agree. I agree. Mr. Harley, you okay. Are there any additional asks prior to them or before we bring them back that we want them to kind of look at? I think we got everything. Mr. Grizel, you good?
I'm good. If we could just communicate to Mr. Keaton exactly what it is we want to follow up on, so he can just give us exactly what we want, including information about the downtown projects. So I'm really interested in that. I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah. And then somebody is going to do that research on that additional line item for commercial demolition. Okay. All right. Other than that, it's always good to see you. And hey, Miss Ainsworth.
I appreciate y'all's support.
All right. Any other questions or comments or announcements? Oh, I have announcements. Where's my schedule? All right. So today we concluded Parks and Recreation Plan Development, Human Resources, and IT. There is a change. So Monday is JRA Airport Authority, JPS, and Library. And I think we also have a special council meeting just at 3:30. And then we have zoning at 2:30. All right. Okay. All right, great. And then Tuesday we have Human and Cultural Service, General Government, the Mayor's Office, CAO's Office, Legal, and the Department of Municipal Clerk and Administration. Wednesday, Public Works. Well, it says Public Works. Okay, Water and Sewer Rate and Department Makeup Day and Council. I guess we need to talk offline when it comes to all of the auditing, when it comes to water and sewer. All right, and so if we could get something set up with legal to have that conversation, and Madam President, to see what the expectation is, at least for us, so that we'll be in the clear. or whatever the legal expectation is. And then what we'll do, Madam President, after Wednesday, well, maybe by Tuesday, we should have a clear picture of deliberation dates and makeup days. But we are for sure that we want to schedule this department. All right. All right. If there's nothing else to come before this body, this meeting is adjourned. All right.